Hey everyone, I just wanted to record a quick intro for my first episode of the MoxieMoron Show. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I just wanted to let you know that you can also listen to it on any podcasting platform. And if you're listening to it, you can go to YouTube and watch the video version. Either way, if you watch the whole thing, please let me know in a comment or a review and leave me some feedback. I would really appreciate it. Thanks again. That's what you got to do is you just hit the record button, and then when I listen back to it in editing, I'll find where I want to start.
Yeah, I was going to say, I figured it doesn't really matter where you start if you can edit it.
Yeah. Holy moly, dude. I got to take a moment.
I know, I got to get the nerves out.
I got to take a moment because I am super nervous about this. I'm already expecting the absolute worst. Another thing I've learned from my many episode ones, as it were, that they never go right. So, something terrible always happens, so I'm prepared for that, but I think
as long as our recorder doesn't fall off the table, I think we'll be fine.
Which it might, as we discovered adjusting our microphones. But I just can't, this is a crazy moment for me, dude. And I plan to get into this later on, but just like the fact that I did it, dude. Like it's episode 1. I'm here in my studio that I built, and we have hit the record button.
We have. How long did it take you to build the studio first? When did you start the project?
I started it. Man, technically it was like in April, probably. We're in November now, but I'll kind of get into that when we get to it in the timeline, but because it was kind of a weird process, because I had to stop for a really long time, and then I was able to start back up again. But dude,
for all the permits and everything,
yeah,
that stuff is so annoying.
It was awful. But I also have my scratchy throat today is because when you sleep wrong and you wake up with a kink in your neck.
Oh yeah.
Like that is exactly what happened to me. And it was like, okay, for a few days. Like this happened a few days ago. And then I tried to play basketball on Tuesday, and I was there, dude. Like I was shooting around, and I was warming up. I was warm. And then like right before we started playing, we had shot for teams. And right before we started playing, like I did a right-handed layup, and it was like, you're done.
That's terrible.
Something in my neck just was like, I tweaked it somehow, and it was so bad that I got a fever over the course of the next 12 hours. So my throat's all swelled up. And that's a thing, by the way. I didn't know. I didn't know that you could experience severe pain to the point where you actually start getting a fever.
It's crazy, dude. Your body is so unpredictable. And the fact that you can just sleep wrong, I know, and hurt yourself is crazy.
I know that, and I learned about. Because I was, now we have ChatGPT. My whole life, that's all my dad would ever say, or my mom would just be like, "Oh, you have a kink in your neck." And I was like, "What the heck does that even mean, dude?" And
everybody says it's a kink.
It'll just go away.
Yeah.
And so I was like, finally, we've got this platform now. I'm like, I suppose I could have Googled it before, but the ChatGPT is so easy. So I was just like, "What the heck? What the heck is a kink in your neck, dude?" And it's a muscle spasm. It's just like your
muscle
muscles
spasm, and it's a pinched nerve. It pinches on the nerves.
It can be that as well. And it's just, but it's just like your body involuntarily is just like doing something that you can't do anything about.
No,
It's stupid, but anyway, that's what I'll be
sleeping is dangerous in 2025 for those of us who have graduated to the age where it can be dangerous.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me just quickly introduce everybody to. This is the MoxieMoron Show, by the way. I don't even think I told you the name of it.
This is the first time hearing the name.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal name.
That's my.
I couldn't have imagined a better one for Kevin's show.
Yeah, that's my online persona is MoxieMoron, and I'll get to that later as well if I can remember to, but. Yeah, that's what I stream on Twitch as. Like that's my gamer name.
Your gamer tag. Nice.
So I was like, dude, I already have a bunch of MoxieMoron stuff, and I'll just name it the MoxieMoron Show. It was going to be the MoxieMoron podcast, and Ashley suggested it be show, and I was like, okay.
I think show sounds good.
But yeah, so I am Kevin Siraj. We're going to hear a lot more about me today, but I've got my buddy Brandon here with me. We've almost known each other for 10 years.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. I've been thinking about that recently.
Almost 10 years. And that'll come up later as well, I'm sure. But normally I'm going to have people on here that I interview, find out more about them, but this being the first episode, I wanted it to be my life story, get to know me, the introduction to MoxieMoron, Mr. Kevin Siraj, and I invited Brandon on here just to because we've had conversations in the past, and he's just somebody that I can share a conversation with. And so I knew that I needed somebody to talk to while I'm doing this. And so it was just a matter of like, who's an easy person to talk to and who can have a conversation. And so,
yeah, as this podcast goes on, I mean, they're going to find out that we've gotten really close over these last 10 years, and you and I talk pretty easily. So
yeah.
It's kind of, it's a good fit.
It's great. Cool. So I think, I think we'll just get started, get right into it. We've yapped about enough intro nonsense. Childhood. We'll start when I was just a wee lad. Dude, this is going to be like, it's going to be like a little quiz for you, a little evaluation.
Oh boy, I'm probably going to fail.
Well, I'm not, I'm not going to ask you anything, but you're about to find out how much you actually know about me and how much you maybe didn't know about me. So, I was born in St. George, Utah.
That I did know.
Yeah. You knew I was born there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's where I grew up my whole life. So I know I've talked about it plenty, but, not the same city today as it was when I was growing up. It was just a little wee town that nobody knew about. And now it's completely booming. And
yeah, St. George is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. What do you,
as far as Utah goes?
I'm curious to hear what you know about St. George. Or what you have heard.
I just hear that it's popular. You hear about it. Yeah. So it's kind of, it puts it on the map. So
yeah, I mean, that's true. The fact that you've even heard of it says something.
Nobody knows where Edwardsville, Illinois is. So I can't say that my town is on the map yet.
That's true.
Half the people that I met out of BYU didn't even know where the heck St. Louis was. So apparently being here in St. Louis, we still have some work to do.
Isn't that kind of crazy though?
Yeah.
Like St. Louis, like people know that it exists, but I probably couldn't have told you where it was on a map before I like got called to St. Louis on a mission. I hate to admit that, but
yeah, people out west are geographically not inclined.
yeah. So anyway, let's see what's interesting about my childhood. Well, first and foremost, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Brandon, my buddy,
myself as that as well. That would be my first identifying factor.
Right. That's what I want it to be. I'm very active, very devout member, and so even though this podcast doesn't really have a specific topic, I feel like it will find its way in that direction in many episodes, because you talk about what you care about, and that's what I care about the most.
Yeah, this is more. When people ask you, "Are you a religious person?" I almost don't even think about it like that, because it's just a lifestyle. And of course, I'm a religious person, and I believe in Jesus Christ, but I consider myself to just be more of a lifestyle Latter-day Saint.
Right, which is
this is just what I live. It's
what it should be.
Yeah.
And okay, interesting. That's almost a segue to kind of the topic about my childhood. Was I look back and realize how typical my situation. Like I was in the quintessential white family, 7 kids in my family. I'm number 4 of 7. I was the middle child.
Middle child as well.
I was wondering that. I was thinking about like what I was going to say today, and I that came across my mind. I was like, dude, I think Brandon is too. But you're 2 of 3.
I'm 2 of 3. Yeah, there's not 7 of us. There's just 3 of us. But yeah, I'm in the middle. Still counts.
So we but yeah, just like typical member family. We grew up Southern Utah. Everybody around us were members, and we embraced the culture pretty hard. I say culture, but I just mean like we were pretty active. We were a pretty active family. My parents were
family home evening type family.
Yeah. That's kind of like a big deciding factor, is like, was your family doing family home evening?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you guys are locked in.
Yeah.
That was funny, because we did a whole bunch of stuff like that. Is like we tried to do scripture study as a family. We'd get up, my parents would drag us all out of bed at like 6 a.m. and we'd read from the scriptures, but
man, that's kind of brutal.
Yeah, we just slept through it, most of us. And so it was like we were locked in, but also not really, because it was like my parents were, and they wanted to keep, they knew what they needed to do, and as parents, but we weren't always on board as kids.
Well, I think that's the way the kids go. Anyway. I mean, I can describe my family as the same one. Tried to have family home evening every week and on Mondays, and we tried to do family scripture study. We tried to do all those things. And as kids, some kids buy in, some kids don't.
Yeah, most don't.
Yeah, I would say it's difficult for kids to understand why it's important. I mean, it's hard for a lot of adults to understand why they should do it.
Right. Yeah. I agree. So I had, just very, very typical situation. If I could sum I don't want to spend a ton of time on my childhood, just because I feel like there's stuff to learn from my boring life, and my childhood there may not be a lot to learn there. I played video games is basically what I did as a kid.
The important question is, were you an Xbox system or were you a PlayStation system?
Well, first I was Nintendo. I was, when you're really young, and my parents were strangers. See, I had the mom and dad that were like, no Halo. We don't like Halo because it's got blood, and we don't like shooting games.
Were the same.
And eventually we steamrolled over that idea and just did it anyway. But yeah, eventually we got an Xbox, but I would just go over to my next door neighbor's house. He's my best friend. He's still such a great friend of mine. And, I probably spent more time at his house than I did my own. I owe their whole family. I'll be indebted to them forever. Just from the sheer amount of their food that I ate.
Oh, I'm sure.
Growing up, I'll never be able to pay them back. But yeah, he and I would just game, and I like sports as well. I mean, I like basketball is the only one I play seriously still, but when I was a kid, I was up for anything. I play football, and I'll still play anything today, but like consistently, I really only care about basketball. But soccer, football, I was into all the little peewee sports, and so I was active, but I like video games, and my friend, he had all the games. We didn't.
Yeah, that's so funny. I had a friend who had all the games, and I had all the time to myself outdoors at home. That's what we did. My parents weren't on board with video games either.
Yeah,
it took them a lot to get us a PlayStation.
When did you get your first PlayStation?
We got a PlayStation 2 probably about the time that I had an older brother. He's 8 years older than me, so it was really for him. But my younger brother and I grew up with it too. And so, gosh, I can't even remember how old we were. Maybe I was 7 or 8.
Okay, yeah,
and he had a Nintendo. He had a Nintendo 64 before that.
Yep, that's what I started out on.
And I loved that system.
Dude, I still love the N64, dude.
Yeah, it hits
different.
One of the better ones for sure. And then, but yeah, I had a friend who wasn't next door to me, but he was a member of the church as well. So our families were really close, and we would go spend time at each other's houses. And so if you were at his house, we just played a crap ton of video games.
Yep.
That's just what we did. He had all the video games. If we were at my house, we just played sports.
Yeah.
Because that's what my parents invested in us playing sports, so that we could be active and doing something productive and not sitting on the living room floor playing video games.
Yeah, we had a similar situation, my buddy and I, but like we were able to have sleepovers at either one's house, but we always had the sleepover at his house because he had the games and we wanted a game more than whatever we wanted to do at my house.
Yeah.
But my parents weren't against video games. They just we just didn't have any money.
My parents just wanted to limit the time spent on video games.
Yeah, my parents did as well. Yeah, that's true. We had
it
Neds
wasn't that
and
they
Eds,
hated
dude.
them, but they wanted your time to be like.
We had no electronic days and electronic days, and
oh man,
eventually that petered out. But yeah, that was so they weren't against it. They just I think that's also pretty significant is that I grew up relatively poor. There were 7 kids and my mom didn't work. She got a job when I was, middle school, maybe. I don't even know when she started that job, but that brought a little bit more income. And to this day, I truly, my dad will laugh at this, but I don't even know how much he was making growing up. And I like he was a salesman. He kind of did ran his own business, and he was selling light bulbs for a while, and then he started selling valves, like pipe valves. He recently struck oil in that department, but
really,
but before my whole life was just nothing, as far as I know. But I mean, he made enough to where here I am.
I know my family seemed to be in a similar boat,
and I feel like he actually made, we actually had decent money, but 7 kids, you have to have a lot of money. or you're going to be poor. And
yeah.
and we just learned to go without, I think. I felt like that anyway.
My parents thought going without was just an important life lesson in general.
It is.
Which I can tell you is.
It is, yeah.
Looking back on it as an adult.
I say that I grew up poor. I'm glad that I did. I would almost, yeah, I would prefer it. If I could go back, I would remain the same, because it's just made me more grateful, made me more happy about
it really does
having like what I have and not like comparing to
just teaching you how to work for your stuff.
Yeah,
that's
just
a
like
major life lesson.
If we don't have the resources for this thing, then it's just not going to happen, and the world's going to keep turning, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine if you don't get to go here or get this or whatever. And so it was good. I had my brother. I was going to say about being the middle child. Everybody always asks about being the middle child. They're like, do you like, you probably hated being the middle child. I was like, dude,
everybody always says that.
I freaking loved it, man.
I didn't have much of a complaint.
I wouldn't have it any other way. And here's why, is because I had my little brother, who's only like 18 months younger than I am, and my older brother, who's like 3 years older than me, maybe not even, but all of my older brother's friends I could hang out with. And then all my younger brother's friends I could hang out with. And I had all my friends, and it was just like,
that's a benefit to being one in the middle that goes overlooked.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like my younger brother and my older brother, I don't feel like they and their friends were really hanging out a lot, but I got to.
But you snuck in on both groups.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, so I say that I was at my buddy's house. That was like early childhood. And so in Utah, you go to school, you go to elementary school from K to 5th. Then you go to intermediate school, which is 6th and 7th grade.
Which is new to us here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
We don't really know what that is.
It's most people. But then we go to middle school, which is 8th and 9th grade. And then high school is 10 through 12.
Oh, wow. So you basically just missed out on being a freshman.
I know, dude. Like you hear all the horror stories of being a freshman, like in the movies and TV shows and stuff. And I was like, dude, when I was a freshman, we were the king of the school. Because it was just eighth graders and 9th graders.
The only freshmen that were kings of the school were treated like kings were the ones who were just unbelievably athletically gifted.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But yeah, different in
Or the
Utah.
ones who dated seniors, but that was a different kind of like celebration.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But so it was about in middle school. So yeah, when 6th, 7th grade rolls around, that's when we start to meet people outside of our little, I lived in Bloomington. It's like a little subdivision. That's not what you call it.
Like a suburb.
A suburb, I think. It's St. George address, but it's just like this community. Yeah, it's not like its own town, but it may as well be. It's just like this place so far removed from St. George. It was like over a 10-minute drive to get anywhere and do anything, but
10 minutes?
We got a Walmart.
Really? 10 minutes?
10 minutes, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know that's nothing for you, but it felt like it.
I feel like I've been driving my entire life. I feel like I've just never stopped.
That's what dude, when I came out here as a missionary, that was one thing that I was just like, dude, people drive around here like and they don't care. They seem to just not care. They're like, 25-minute drive, easy. I'm like, dude, that's from here to Cedar. Like, no, not quite, but yeah. Anyway, middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, like that's when we met. Like that's when I met everybody around town. Like first, my whole world was just in Bloomington, and so it was like all the boys and girls there. it was like everybody at the elementary school were the only people my age that existed. Yeah. And then overnight, now there's like 1,000 kids that are also my age. And so you're like, you get a billion more friends. And so the dynamic between me and my buddy that I grew up with changed a little bit. Not so much, actually. We still just like, we got another buddy of mine, and the three of us still gamed pretty hard. But throughout it, there was a period of time where I had people at my house just all the time. And we had the open door policy. Like if you came to my house growing up and you like rang the doorbell or knocked on the door, it was like, who the heck is this person? Man, this is somebody that we don't know.
I wanted that so bad, but we grew up on the outskirts of town, so we were 20 minutes from everything, and like nobody was coming out to us.
Right. So yeah, and that's I say we were 10, 15 minutes away from town, but there were still a decent number of people in Bloomington, and so we just had people over all the time. It was like any given day, any given time, there was like over 10 people, 10 kids in the house. We've got 7 of them already, and they all have friends, and our house was the place to be. It was like, we had me and my friends, and my little brother's friends, we'd have like, there was a year or two where we would have Modern Warfare 2 going on. We had the Xbox. We had gotten the Xbox by this time, but you had to play online. Online was the only format that was worth it. And so we only had one person playing Modern Warfare at a time. And then once your game was up, then you'd rotate over to Magic the Gathering on the floor. Whoever's playing Magic on the floor, now you're playing Magic. Somebody else takes over Modern Warfare. They get to play a game. And then you had like 4 or 5 other people upstairs playing Smash Bros. And then you had 2 or 3 people outside in the garage playing ping pong. And it was just like rotating constantly. And
the days of sharing controllers to play games like Modern Warfare 2 and all that stuff, gosh, those were some of the most fun times, but we've gotten so far removed from that. You couldn't teach your kids how to do that anymore.
Dude, I know.
They would not stand it.
I know. And that's what's funny is like back then I was just like, dude, wouldn't it be great if I just didn't have to share?
Yeah.
And I could just
be
play.
Great if we could all just play together at the same time?
And now that is the case, and we're just killing ourselves.
Yeah, we are. We're like, can we just go back to like having to share the remote for once?
Yeah. So, but the bottom line is like, those were the days, dude. Like I feel like I had a freaking dynamite childhood. In the summer, we'd throw into that rotation, going over to my next door neighbor, my same buddy. He had a pool, and his mom would get like an air mattress. And we'd just play King of the Hill on this air mattress. We went through so many air mattresses, dude. It would have been so annoying. I look back at so many things and I'm like, dude, my buddy's mom was just a trooper, dude. She put up with so much. So did my parents.
It seems like every friend group has one mom who's just willing to just go with whatever happens.
Yeah, I am eternally grateful for that family. So I think that's really all I have to share about my childhood. Things really started to change for me when I was 14, which is still young. I mean, I feel like that's still included in your childhood. This was during the time, the peak of our gaming at my house. Like, this happened about the same time. I had a young men's leader. So up until this point, I should say that my religious involvement, I felt like I was a pretty good kid. I never got sent to the principal's office. Did you ever get sent to the principal's office?
Never once.
Really?
I had one lunch detention in my entire life, and I was never in trouble other than that one time, and I never really shouldn't have even been in trouble. I didn't do anything wrong.
That's like a strangely good indicator of like how you behaved as a kid.
It really is. Yeah, I never had to go to the principal's office, which would have, like, if I had to have gone, I probably would have died from the fear of going because I was such a rule follower as a kid. Oh man, I was so stressed out by breaking the rules. So stressed.
Yeah, I wasn't like super stressed out about breaking the rules. I just like didn't. I had sort of a conscience, and I just thought it was like too much. I just was like, I don't need to act out like.
I never really saw the point.
It wasn't appealing to me to like be a rule breaker. I wasn't like, I have to follow the rules, but I was like, seems just easier to follow them typically.
I always felt like I just had a really good understanding of respect as a child. And so in school, I just wanted to give my teachers the respect that I felt like they deserved.
Yeah.
And they don't get that from everybody. So
yeah, I had a couple teachers like that I respected more and consequently behaved better probably. But I felt like I was a pretty good kid. I didn't really do anything like crazy, but I did go through a period of where like you just get into middle school and everybody starts to just like get super vulgar.
Yeah.
It's middle school, and Utah's no different. Like you would think that it would be different with how many members there are, but it's debatably worse than other places. And I fell prey to that, just like that's what you do, is like
peer pressure is real.
Yeah. And it didn't matter like that I was a member, because I still believed in God and I still was going to church every Sunday doing my responsibilities. But then you're surrounded by all these other kids that are doing the same thing, and they're all telling gross jokes and being vulgar. And so I was like, well, it can't possibly be that bad. And
that's the hard thing about going to school in the Midwest, being a member of the church. Everybody around you is not a member. So everybody thinks it's okay to do whatever. And then you're taught a very fine line of guidelines to follow.
Right.
And so I only had maybe 7 or 8 at a max of members of the church who were in my school at a time. And that was like in high school. So that brought in 2 cities, Glen Carbon and Edwardsville, all went to the same high school.
Oh,
it
wow.
brought in 2 wards.
Edwardsville didn't have their own. You shared a high school with Glen Carbon?
Yeah, it was massive.
Wow.
It was like 2,000 kids.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good sized high school.
But in our area, we had an Edwardsville ward and a Glen Carbon ward, and we were always split as far as youth went. So you joined together when you got to high school.
Okay, yeah.
So that was the time when there were the most number of members.
Still like 7 or 8.
Yeah, still like 7 or 8.
Yeah, and but I think at the same time, it's detrimental in Utah because like the con out here is that you don't have the support around you.
Yeah.
But the con in Utah is that
the people who are supposed to support you are doing it.
Yeah, the line isn't there. The standard isn't even there. It's like here you're like, okay, I know I can clearly see the standard that I'm supposed to, be at and be separated from the rest of my peers who don't have who don't believe the same way I do. But in Utah, it's like everybody has this belief, but but there still are like some kids that actually were, better than others, but they're all members.
Yeah.
And so you're like, what kind of member am I? And so, I had maybe a year or two where I was one of the vulgar ones. But again, like nothing, I wasn't getting sent to the principal's office still. I was still a decent kid. But it all changed when I got, we had a young men's leader, move into our ward at about that time. He knows exactly who he is. And he set the example, and it was a game changer for me because, I had young men's leaders up until I had been through the entire deacons quorum already. And, I had leaders, and not that they were bad leaders, but, this one leader in particular was just he was a very personable guy. Like he was very likable and earned the rapport from the youth very quickly. But on top of that, he was very, very spiritually driven. It was written in the heart rather than just culturally, I got to do my calling type of thing. And I noticed that like it just changed the game for me, because I remember being at campouts and he'd be like, okay, like before we get all crazy around the campfire, like, we know why we're out here. We're fun to goof off and tell jokes around the campfire and be silly. But before we do that, I've got a spiritual thought. It'll take 5 minutes less. And I just remember thinking like, nobody's out here telling this guy he's got to do this. Nobody's out here like, yeah, he's got to come out on the camp out. He's got to come out and watch us and make sure we don't kill each other and maybe, prepare some sort of a lesson. But nobody is out here like, telling him that you have to make sure you do a spiritual thought before your thing. And not only would he share these spiritual thoughts, but like they were in here again. Like it would just be like, I have something, a personal opinion about the gospel to share, that's important to me that I feel like you guys should know. And he would deliver it very well. And it was impactful. And I mean, it changed our whole quorum. I mean, we had a quorum of like 20 guys.
That's huge.
Just the teachers. So just the people
That's
from
unfathomable
14 to 16 or 14 and 15 year olds. Yeah. We had like over 20 guys. And eventually, like very quickly, I remember it happened like all at once as I was like, dude, I'm a freaking fraud. Like I grew up in the church. I know all the answers to all the questions. I'm like, read your scriptures and pray every day and do all these things. But then I remember it just hit me all at once. I was like, I'm not doing those things. I go to church every week and I'm like, the scriptures will strengthen your relationship with God. What 14-year-old is like opening their scriptures every day and actually reading the scriptures?
What 14-year-old understands that the relationship can really grow through the scriptures? I mean,
it's just,
I had no idea.
It's not on their radar.
I was 14.
And it is, it is for some. But I think that's a pretty young age to,
you have to be a very enlightened 14-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know a lot of this will sound very braggy, so whatever, but I don't really have anything to brag about these days. so
you can
I'll brag about my childhood. But I was, Joseph Smith mentioned like that he became concerned for the welfare of his soul at an early age. And I feel like that's what happened to me. Was at 14, I was like, holy crap, dude, like, this is it. This is what life is about. And I was like, I can't be doing what I've been doing. And so I just got locked in on the gospel. And because that was the other thing, is that you're like, oh, it's the most important thing in my life. It's like, oh, if your house is burning down and you can grab 5 items,
if all 5 of them aren't the scriptures, what are you doing?
Yeah, you write your scriptures, and I'm like, dude, no, nobody would. You're not taking your scriptures. And
you know, it's funny how that changes, because when I was 14, I would have never thought to grab my scriptures. And we, as youth in the church, we fought against our leaders to not do spiritual thoughts, to not do our duty to God, which was the church's program at the time.
The boring stuff.
To try and further your relationship with God. We felt like that stuff didn't work for us. And so we just got him to basically give up, because we just wanted to play basketball.
Yeah. You want to do the fun stuff.
And we wanted to do the fun stuff. So I felt like we missed out on...
Yeah. And
we had leaders who were totally willing to do all that, but we didn't have somebody who made it personal for us, and we missed out.
Right. And I think that's what's typical, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's a typical youth experience. And I was like, and I felt that I was kind of that same way. You know, I talked about how my house was kind of the place to be during that time of my life. And it was because I felt like I had a knack for just getting along with everybody in my quorum. Cause I'm still the same way. Like, I've just done so many things that there's not a lot of guys that I can't find common ground with. Like, I'm thespian. I was in musical theater. And I played Magic, big card game, trading card nerd, video game nerd, devoted my freaking life to video games. But I'm also playing sports, love to play sports, work hard at sports. And I felt like I got pretty good at basketball. And so
I would confirm. I can confirm.
There's just no real, like, what's the, like, area. There's no hobby that I haven't, like, done or been similar to. Hunting was one that I'm not a hunter.
I've never been hunting, but I like to shoot guns.
Yeah, guns kind of freak me out, but I've come around to them in recent years. Not that
you got to go out with me sometime, and we'll change that. There's so much fun. I got Angeles to shoot a gun, which
really
was probably my most proud moment.
Her first time?
Yeah, her first time. When I used to talk about buying a gun, she was so completely against it. She would be like, I don't want any guns in the house. You'll never own a gun, because I am so scared of them that I can't be near them.
Yeah.
And I slowly worked on her to get her to a point where I could convince her, well, at least let me have one, because I enjoy them. And we went out to a friend's property the other day. Actually, it was last Saturday. And he brought his guns, and we were shooting, and we were talking about them, and we were just kind of showing her how they work, just kind of easing her into it without trying to pressure her. And then she eventually opened up and wanted to do it. And she did it. And she didn't just shoot like a 22. She shot the AR, which has a good kick to it. And she did well.
Her first gun she ever shot was an AR-15.
Her first gun she ever shot was a 22.
Okay.
The second gun she ever shot was an AR, and it was awesome.
Like, dang, dude.
It was awesome. I was thrilled, because now she enjoys it. She would totally do it again.
Yeah,
So you got to come out with us the next time we do it, because you'll feel the same way.
I may have to.
It's a thrill.
Hunting, though, I wasn't a big hunter. I don't like I don't like killing. I won't even kill bugs, dude.
I don't like
hard for me
hunting
to do
just
that.
for the fact of like, if I had to hunt,
Oh yeah,
to
I'd do
eat,
that. Yeah, I'd do that.
I would do that, but I don't like hunting just to kill
To
things.
go kill something,
I'm not out for that. I feel bad anytime you hit an animal with your car. I mean, anytime you even hit a dead animal with your car, I feel bad.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. But that's like the only thing that I just like, there just wasn't a lot that I hadn't at least, tried. Anyway, I had, I guess the biggest point about that is that the more the gospel, the more important that God became in my life, the less important like every aspect of school became important. Like I stopped, like the more I cared about what God thought of me, the less I cared about what all of my peers thought of me, or really anybody. And so I started to just really, really hate school. And I was always like academically, I've always been, what's the term they use now is gifted. You're just ahead of the game academically. I was always in the higher math classes, and I was offered to skip second grade.
Man, that's pretty gifted right there.
Pretty impressive, right? But I chose not to. Didn't know anybody in the third grade, so I was like, nah, it's not for
Honestly,
me.
second grade was a fun one. Glad you didn't skip out.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I was ahead of the game academically, but and even socially, like I told people I felt like I was friends with a ton of people in school, but I wasn't like best friends, like let's hang out outside of school with hardly anyone. Like I was the kid that like I was like everybody was like happy to see me at school and we'd have a thing, but I wasn't going to call you up and like come over. And that was just still me and my buddy next door. And then
so
our third friend, we had a tight knit group like that, but yeah, that's kind of how I was. Which I
feel like
liked.
you're just describing my high school experience.
It's not surprising because we've found that we're pretty similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you and I have actually been you have probably been one of the most similar to me friends that I've ever had.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to our introduction because that was cool.
Man, there's one story I hope we get to that I guarantee has to be part of your plan.
I hope so. Dang, now I got pressure. Anyway, that was the big thing is I hated school to the point where I was done with it. I was like, academically, it's super boring, really slow. And then, so the only thing that was like getting me through the day was the social aspect of it. But then once I stopped caring about what everybody my age was caring about, then that wasn't even, I was like, dude, everybody here's an idiot. And I was like, I still think
everybody's an idiot.
Yeah. That's definitely a weakness, but it was very, very, very new idea to me. And I was like, dude, I hate this place. Everybody sucks. And so I told my parents, I was like, I don't want to go to school anymore. And that's what's funny is I dropped out of high school. I was 14. It was my freshman year. And my friends, and I would tell my friends, I was like, dude, I'm dropping out.
And everybody says that, but nobody ever means
Yeah, exactly. And they're just like, oh yeah, dude, me too, dude, let's do it. And I'm like, dude, I'm dropping out. And I've always been that way. I always have these unconventional ideas or these hot takes, and as we'll find out in the podcast, and people are like, oh yeah, and then I actually do it.
Kevin's king hot take. If you guys will learn, Kevin is king hot take, because if there is anything controversial, Kevin's thought it already.
Yeah, but like I'm serious about it.
It's not just like a whimsical thing.
I'm very science based.
He believes in it,
and that's the other thing is I just have a lot of faith in stuff that I probably shouldn't, to the point where everybody's like, dude, let's start a podcast. Yeah, but then Kevin's the only one that goes $20,000 into debt to actually do it.
I mean, I would have loved to have started a podcast and talk about everything, but I would not have done that without Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. We'll find out in the future whether it's a good or a bad thing. So far, hasn't profited me a ton, but I like the way I am. Anyway, dropped out of high school, and my friends were like, dude. That was the thing, is they're like, oh yeah, funny joke, LOL, like, dude, me too, I'm dropping out. And then I actually dropped out, and they're like, dude, why weren't you at school today? And I'm like, oh, I don't go to school anymore. And they're like, are you serious, you idiot? And like, I was like, where was the kid I was talking to yesterday? And I'm like, they're like, what? Why did you drop out? And I was like, what do you mean, why did I drop it? I've told you 50 times I don't like it here. And I didn't. I like, it depressed me. I started to get like really, really stressed out about school, and just dude, in fact, I'm glad I remembered this. I have a memory on my Facebook page from today that was like in 2011. 14-year-old me was like, I made a post on Facebook that said, How is life short when school is so dang long? That was a memory from today. That's such a 14-year-old
thing to say too.
I know. I was so deep.
Oh man!
But it was just funny timing. I was like, dude, that's such a great thing.
Many of the things that I used to say
to share on the podcast. Oh, me too. Yeah, that's one of my better ones from my Facebook memories. But anyway. They were like, what? They were like, dude, yeah, everybody hates school. Everybody, like, school sucks for everybody, but you still go because your friends and like your future. And I'm like, dude, my future is not going to be decided by school. I'm learning things that I don't need to learn here.
Yeah.
And the social aspect is doo-doo. Everybody, it turns into middle school, and especially high school, turns into this big dating game. Whether you're like trying to enter a steady relationship or not, like, it's just like the guys are trying to impress the girls, and the girls are trying to impress the guys. And, you have a few people that are just like freaking locked in, dude. Like my buddy that I've been talking about, perfect example of that, dude. He was never into the romantic side of or the drama of high school, middle school. He was just locked in, dude.
Oh, I totally got sucked in.
He was a machine, and he was like, dude, I'm just going to be a 4.0 student and slay high school and then go on to be great. But most people weren't like that,
because I didn't care.
Yeah, like most people were not like that. And so it was... Most people are just goofy, and like the education is the secondary part of school. Socially,
yeah, I look back on what I learned, and I don't really remember any of it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that the typical middle schooler says is like, we're never going to use this in life. I'm going to be this, and we're never going to have to. And the teachers are like, eye roll, but dude, there's truth to it, man.
Yeah.
They're like, haven't used calculus 2 yet.
How to be a good worker, how to be a good 9 to 5. True. School is there to teach you how to be a good 9 to 5 person, how to follow a schedule, how to do what you're told, and how to not talk back and question things. That's what school is really good for.
And look at me now, dude. I'm horrible at those things.
Yeah, same. I'm
And
terrible.
that's why I'm sitting in this chair, because every 9-to-5 job that I've had where I have to work under people, I can't do it because
I just quit my job last week because I don't like working for other people.
yeah, that's my thing. And it could be a bad thing. And I'll probably talk more about this, but I feel like it can be a good thing. It can be a good thing if you continue to work.
I know people who completely thrive on that 9-to-5 schedule routine.
Right.
My dad's one of them. He is the king of
the routine.
The routine.
Yeah. The conventional.
He's so good at it. I have a new friend in our new ward who's just loves it.
Yeah.
And it's for some people and it's not for other people. And I think it's still such a hot take that we're still not paying attention to the ones who it's really not good for, because there is a difference between school being necessary and good and it actually being good for you. Sometimes that structure is not good for people.
Right. And yeah. But that's why I'm not like going around and telling everybody to drop out of high school or not have the 9-to-5 job.
Exactly. You won't know until you know.
Yeah.
And you've got to figure that out for you personally.
But that's a big reason why I'm doing this, is because I've always wanted to be living proof that you can do what you want to do. But it still requires hard work. See,
it requires a lot of hard work.
Is people hear high school dropout and they think you drop out of high school and you just and then you just go home and waste your life away, which many people do.
There are
and
those
you
people,
can't do.
But you can't be successful and be that person.
Yeah, you can't be successful if you're not going to work hard. But working hard is not limited to going to high school. In fact.
Absolutely not.
Because I'll take this time to. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
There are just a lot of people out there who are good students and bad workers, and
the opposite. The
opposite is true as well. There are a lot of great workers and great employers, not employees, who are not good at school.
Right. And
it's not even necessarily about not being good at it. It's just that their priorities were not school. Because you can be good at whatever you put practice into.
Right.
But some people just have a priority that isn't school. And that is A-okay. I should have been one of those people. I bought in to a degree that I didn't like because I thought I needed to finish and get a degree. And I don't use that degree anymore because I didn't like it. I knew I didn't like it halfway in. And I should have quit back then. And I knew what I wanted to do in the future, but I just didn't do it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you about because I got my GED when I was 16. In fact, I'll just kind of.
Which is gifted, by the way.
Yeah, no. That's the good enough degree is what they call the GED. I'll get to that really quickly. I went back to school. I was kind of in like this weird limbo thing where I wasn't feeling like I was self-teaching as much as I had planned to. Big shocker, I know. 14-year-old kid not working out the way he thought it would. I went back to school my sophomore year for like the first quarter, and I was like, oh yeah, this is horrible.
Oh yeah, I remember why I didn't want to be here.
Exactly. And I dropped out again. And then then my friends convinced me to come back like the last quarter of my sophomore year. So I was in and out. And then my junior year, I switched schools. I lived in the middle of two high school borders. So I knew a lot of people from a high school that I lived near that I didn't go to. But there was another high school much further away where I didn't know anybody. And I was like, I want to go there. I want to go there. If I'm going to try high school one more time, I'm going to go to this school where I know nobody and I just want to get through. I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to put my headphones in. I'm not talking to anybody. And that's what I'm going to do. And it didn't work. That's a story for another episode, but halfway through that year, I dropped out and got my GED. And at that point, they don't even let you come back. But the thing about the GED is that it was a pretty difficult test. I think it's tougher than most people think. It was like 7.5 hours long.
Jeez.
And
I would not have guessed that it would have been that long of a test.
yeah, people are like, you hear GED and you're like, LOL.
Well, if anybody's seen the movie Night School, you think it's a pretty big joke. Oh, you've got to go watch it. It's
literally, I don't even think I've heard of that movie.
It's a Kevin Hart movie about getting his GED.
Oh, okay.
It is.
Maybe I have heard of it, actually.
It is hilarious. You have to go watch it.
But yeah, the GED gets crapped on.
You'll really appreciate it because it's about the GED.
But the thing is it's a freaking test, dude. Like high school, you have the SATs or whatever. You have exams to get your grades, but at the end of the day,
which don't tell you how smart you really are.
Yeah, there was so much BS going on where you'd have like charismatic students getting A's in classes, not because they knew the material as an A student should, but just because they could schmooze the teacher and the teacher held their hand through it or gave them extra credit to make up, or like there's just a billion different ways that like you could fudge your way through an A. And then and you didn't even have to get an A to get a high school diploma. You just had to pass high school with I don't even know what, a C, like 75% and up was a passing grade.
Yep.
And it's like, no, you don't have to ace the GED, but like, I just felt like the GED was a much more accurate reflection of what somebody actually knew, rather than a high school diploma.
Yeah,
but high school diplomas, to your point, what you made before about school being about work, being taught to work hard and show up places and follow through with your commitments, like that is a skill that I think, again, that's why I'm not telling everybody to drop out of high school, because there are still valuable things to learn in high school.
Yeah.
And even college, same way. But we live in the day and age now where see, it used to be school, high school, and college especially were the places that you go to actually learn things.
Yeah.
And that is just not the case today. There is nothing that you can't learn on your freaking phone.
Yeah, now we live in a new age where information and the ability to learn is just unprecedented, and people are figuring that out. I mean, people are doing it more and more every day.
And that would, and I came to that conclusion before we even had AI or ChatGPT. ChatGPT has sent that concept into overdrive.
Gosh. Yeah, for real.
But before, I was like, dude, Google and YouTube. There's nothing that you can't find on the internet that is like exclusively at a university. Universities have like hands-on things, which is also important. They have resources that you can use and become familiar with and learn your way around. But like education, stuff that you need to learn, like it's on the internet, dude. And that's what I felt like even as a high schooler. And so yeah, I was done with it. And
the difference too is a lot of the things that you need for school, like universities have resources that are very specific to learning course material. The Google has everything you need to learn about life.
Yeah, that's
the
that's
point.
a great example.
Is
or
Google
a great
can teach
point.
you about anything that you want to do in life
that you want to do. It's
exactly.
you tailor it to you.
Whereas
it's even
universities,
better.
you tailor yourself to the university.
And I have heard also that universities are good for like teaching you or showing you stuff that you just may not even be aware of. it's like I can learn stuff. I can learn anything that I can search up, right? But maybe there are things that I don't even know to search up.
Yeah.
Maybe there are jobs or careers that like I'm unaware of that I'm just oblivious of. And so I'm never going to search that up and learn about it.
On your own, you're only limited to what you can think of.
Yeah, so yeah, there's value, but the point is that it's not the only way anymore, you know? And that was the big thing about the neighborhood and the culture that I grew up in. I kind of need to turn back the clock to when I first made this decision, was that that was the first time in my life where I did something that was very, very unpopular. And it had ramifications that I was not even really aware of until later. Like I found out that there were, well, I shouldn't say found out, but you can only imagine that there were other parents in our neighborhood that were in our ward, went to our church, that when I dropped out, they were like, Kevin's an idiot, but his parents are also crazy. Yeah. Any parent that's going to let their kid do that is just as nutty as the kid that's dropping out of high school. And like, I think that there were kids that like weren't even allowed to like come over to my house anymore because of the example that I had. But the ironic thing was that I was the teachers quorum president. Again, this like group of 20 guys. I was called to be the teachers quorum president. And then when we were all priests, I went to the bishop's first assistant. In fact, that's kind of where I'll transition to my mission. But the thing was that as stupid as I was in the world's eyes and in this conventional like go to school type of lifestyle that everybody around me was doing, I was still somehow seen by everybody at church as this all-star, like, well, Kevin's great.
You were consistently being called to be a leader.
Yeah, and that's
because
what they
have leadership capabilities, whether or not you go to school.
But that's the thing, is that like I was the leader, and then now the leader's dropping out of high school, and that's really bad.
Well,
they're like
that people need to worry about themselves.
Yeah, well that doesn't happen in Utah.
It does not. It doesn't happen here either.
That's what let me get to my.
But your ward was much bigger, so
let me get to my mission, because that was the next game changer in my life. So I get called to St. Louis, which is where we're at now. This is where I live, so for people that are unfamiliar, like you get as a missionary, you sign up to serve a mission, and on your own dime. I think a lot of people still like think missionaries get paid to go serve missions.
No, we pay to go serve.
Yeah. So you get called to a place anywhere in the world, pretty much. You don't get to choose. And so I got called to St. Louis, and again, I'll reemphasize the fact that everybody in my ward was like, I gave my farewell talk, and after being the leader among the youth, they were like, "Oh, dude, you're going to be such a good missionary. Oh, Kevin, dude, you're awesome. You're just going to tear it up out there, dude. You're great." And I was like, "Dude, I'm going to be a good missionary. Let's go." I got out here, and it was not that way. That was what was just one of the most interesting things in my life, was like I came out here, and again, it was because I cared so much about the gospel, because I cared so much about doing the right thing, not being a good missionary. I didn't care.
Because missionaries have lots of rules.
Right.
Lots of, and a lot of them
are ridiculous.
And don't make sense, but they are there and you are expected to follow them.
Yes. You're taught very adamantly that obedience, you just got to obey, and
no matter what the rule is.
And in hindsight, again, hindsight 2020, I start to see why that is. At first you're like, oh, it's just so that they can have the control that they need over the missionaries, and it's just to brainwash you, and that's what a lot of people think. But it's easy to see it that way, but I see the value in that kind of obedience as I look back, and as I look forward. But anyway, it was a big problem for me. I got out there and it was not at all what I had expected, because I ran into issues where mission leaders I'm talking about like district leaders, zone leaders. These are other missionaries that are put in these leadership positions, but don't actually have any authority behind it. They're not actually, the other callings in the church, you're actually set apart.
Yeah.
You have this divine authority to actually carry out the calling. Missionary leadership is not that way. Your mission leader or your mission president is the only one that's set apart to. But it was very conflicting to me, because you're like, yeah, the mission president is the Lord's anointed. He's got the stewardship over you, so you do what he says, you do what he tells you to do. But he's telling me to do what the zone leaders tell me to do. And he's telling me to do what the district leaders telling me to do. And the district leaders telling me to do something really freaking dumb. And I'm like, what do I do here? Because you're telling me that they don't have this divine setting apart, that they don't have divine authority over, that I'm not actually under their stewardship, but you're under the mission president's stewardship, and he's telling you to do what the district leader tells you to do. And I'm like,
that would be difficult for me, because I don't like.
And some of the things,
circumstance.
Yeah. And some of the things were just so dumb, dude. I'm not going to I don't want to be mean or offend anybody, but there were some things that I was like, this isn't effective. This is straight nonsense, what you're asking us to do. And I wouldn't do it. Ultimately, there were a few things and every time I would ask them, if the zone leaders wanted me to do something, I'd be like, is this something that the whole mission is doing, that the mission president instituted, or is this something that you guys just want the zone to do? And if they were like, it's just like a zone thing I'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. And
it takes a lot of guts to do that, though.
Well, yeah. Well,
that's actually a really smart question to ask, because then where is it really coming from? Is it coming from the mission president, or is it coming from a couple of boneheads who are just
right? And not that every challenge, everything that they instituted was stupid, but there were just a few things that I felt were, and I was told that I had the freedom to choose whether I wanted to do those things, and technically I did. So technically, when I'd say that, the zone leaders would be like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." But even though that's fine, you are a crappy missionary, though. Like to the mission president, that's what do you think the zone leaders are going to report on now?
Yeah.
They go back and they're like, "Yeah, we did this awesome thing with our zone, and we instituted this cool thing where we were doing this, but Elder Siraj, he didn't want to do it though." And that's all that gets to him. And the mission president's like, "Oh, Elder Siraj."
And he just keeps hearing that.
Troublemaker, dude. And I feel like that's how it was. I had two mission presidents, and I don't think either one of them liked me very much. And they may hear that and disagree. That's just how I felt. I had each of them actually come to my apartment and speak with me privately because of these struggles that I had. And I think that they were both, that those conversations were misinterpreted both times. And I had a lot of evidence to believe that they didn't think that I had the right intentions, that I was just a bad missionary, and that I didn't. But that was the thing, is that I cared so much about the gospel. I knew that it was true. I was the all-star back at home, and everybody was like, dude, this guy's going to be a great missionary. But the mission rules, it was just a big curveball, threw me for a loop. And it ended up being a really, really depressing experience. I was also on Accutane. I had horrible acne, and apparently Accutane can cause depression. So that didn't help. But the first 18 months of my mission was rough. You hear missionaries all the time come home and they're like, dude, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it was the happiest I've ever been. I can genuinely tell you that I was not the happiest I have ever been on my mission. I'm very glad that I served. It was a indispensable experience.
Well, and I think we need more people to be honest about that.
Yeah.
I've never once heard somebody talk about their mission like it might have been a really difficult time, because they'll tell you, oh yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but it was the best 2 years of my life.
Right.
And you hear that all the time, and it's so cliche, and I honestly feel like it's a little dishonest, because
it depends on the person. I mean, I feel like there are people like that did have just a killer 2 years, and they actually did love it. But like, the amount of people because then they come home and then they don't do it. Then they throw it all away. And I'm like, how happy were you really if you're not going to hang on to it for more than 6 months?
Yeah.
And
because it's really meant to change who you are as a person.
Right. And
forever.
And that was the other thing
not you change for 2 years and then go back to what you were doing.
I kind of felt bad for, at some point, I think one of the mission presidents said that you should go home and like, don't worry about this adjusting phase to normal life again, because that just means that you were locked in as a missionary, and you're going to go through adjustments, and it's going to feel weird. And I did not feel that at all. When I got home, there was zero adjusting. I was fine, dude. Like,
some people are like that.
You hear these horror stories of missionaries come home and they're like stir crazy, and they're like, they can't have 2 seconds of downtime, or they start listening to music and they're like, whoa, what is this? And
yeah,
and none of that, dude. I turned on my music again, and it was like I had never left. And I don't think that was because I didn't care about the gospel. I just feel like it was because I felt like there shouldn't have been such a line between the missionaries and the members.
Yeah.
And that was what changed for me my last 6 months when I went to Edwardsville, where you were at.
You were in Edwardsville for a long time.
I was there for the last 6 months of my mission, and
which
it was
awesome.
And it was great. This area really changed it for me. But I think a lot of that reason was because I was like, dude, I've got 6 months left. Like, I'm done stressing about whether I am doing the right thing, or if I'm not being obedient enough. Like, that's what I had spent 18 months doing. And eventually, like, the last 6 months, I was like, dude, here's what I know. I know I'm not the most obedient missionary. I know that I'm not the most disobedient missionary. I know that I'm not doing anything bad. I know that I'm a good member of the church. I know that I'm a good disciple of Christ. And I would never do anything crazy. You know, I'm pretty lackadaisical when it comes to the nitty-gritty rules and things like that. And that's what was stressing me out, is because I was like, that was really tough for me. And I couldn't always do those things. And I was like, I must be a piece of crap because now I'm disobedient. And I was like, dude, I'm not worrying about that anymore. I'm going to be a good member of the church. I'm going to preach the gospel. I'm going to try to bring the Spirit to people. And I'm not going to worry about how obedient I am. And because you could say that and then go be a freaking idiot and give the church a bad name and yourself a bad name. But I just knew that I wasn't going to do that. I knew that I cared about people and that I wasn't an idiot.
Well, and one of the things that I think we skip over as members of the church and as missionaries is we get so caught up in how scary it is to share religious views, or we get so caught up in having a lesson plan, or we get so caught up in needing to have a good segue in.
Right.
We need to just be focused on bringing the Spirit to people who don't feel it frequently.
Yeah.
Because when they do, somebody needs to be there to point it out to them that that's what it is. And that is what good missionaries can do.
That was a big lesson that I learned on my mission. I read some talk that the dude said that he was kind of the same way in the way that he was like, dude, I'm going to convert everybody because I'm going to be a freaking expert on the scriptures. There's not going to be a single. And that was the way I was, is I was like, dude, because I correlated that with, in fact, I'll come back to this concept, but I had this burning desire to just be like a freaking scholar and know the Bible and the Book of Mormon like the back of my hand. And
because we think that the more we know, the better, the easier we can convert other people.
Exactly.
The easier it is that we can convince somebody of the message, and we're missing that we don't convince people of the message.
So take that, and this guy in the talk was like, that's how I felt, that's how I was, until the Spirit basically told me, like, do you really think that the Lord is going to put the salvation of another person in the hands of how much you know about the scriptures? He's
That's
like,
such a great point.
I know. Like, do you think that the Lord is gonna, do you think that the Lord, like, whether this person is saved or not is going to be left up to how much you did your studies?
No.
He's like, it's not about that. It's about bringing the Spirit to people.
Yeah.
And that changed.
That witness is what changes your life.
Yeah, that's what you remember.
That's what you remember.
That's what influences you.
Feeling the Spirit is something memorable to people who don't really know what it feels like.
Right.
And I'll explain this for just a second. My dad is a convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He is the only member on his side of the family, but we were kind of like the central point of family gatherings for a while. Our home was where we hosted a lot of family events, and his extended family would come, and every time they came, they would express how welcome they felt in our home and how loved they felt while they were there. And that was a feeling that they didn't want to let go of. And that is because of the Spirit. They didn't know it, but they felt it, and they recognized that it was different.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, so that's what it was all about. And that's what changed for me. And so that last 6 months, so that, and enter Brandon, that's where that was where he was Edwardsville. And that was when I was like, dude, I'm just gonna be a good dude, and I'm not gonna stress about it. And I had a really enjoyable time in Edwardsville. I remember the first thing that I can remember about you was that you recognized the Search the City album artwork on the back of my planner.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I had all of my planners, all my mission planners, I had, like, everybody had like pictures of Jesus and like all these other church pictures. And I was like, dude, it's like the one thing that I can decorate that says something about me. I was like, everything in my apartment has Jesus on it. I was like, dude, my planner is going to be something I can I can show people about myself that, you know, my hobbies or whatever.
And it was really obscure.
I know. Yeah. That's what threw me off is like, that's why I told everybody I was listening to Search the City in middle school. And every time people were like, what music do you like to listen? I was like, oh, I like to listen to a band nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah, basically.
That's what I told everybody.
That was literally my entire existence because I had a brother who was older than I was and who grew up on Blink-182 and all those things. And so I got into that type of music and nobody else.
Which you get obscure. Yeah.
Nobody else knew. I didn't have friends who liked the same kind of music. No.
So, and it was just like, it wasn't. What was caught me off. So it caught me off guard was that you that you recognize it from the album cover.
Yeah,
I was
didn't
like,
say "Search This City."
Yeah, it wasn't listen. We weren't listening to a song or anything. It was just like
it was
half
just
a picture hanging out of my pocket. And you're like, "Is that Search the City?" And I was like, "Who is this guy?"
This guy knows. This guy is wise.
That's what I was like. I have instant respect for this person right now. And yeah, that was, so we've been friends since then.
Yeah. I felt like I never served a mission and I was just a regular dude at the time that you came to my ward, but I felt like you were like my best friend at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why that was the other thing that was impressive that I enjoyed about you was that you didn't serve a mission, but you still seemed to be genuine and also care about the gospel.
Yeah.
And so there was like, that was it, was just the genuineness is like, and that's what because that's the thing is missions aren't the saving ordinances, you know, and it's not for everybody, but typically it's like, if you're passionate about the gospel, then you serve a mission. If you're not, then you don't. But that doesn't have to be the case.
No.
And a lot of people kind of like brand themselves as the loser when they don't feel like they're up to the task of serving a mission. They're like, I guess the church isn't for me, dude. But I didn't feel like that was you. Is like you still strangely were very involved, and I was like, that's respectable, dude. Like maybe you don't serve a mission, but like don't turn your back on Christ. And anybody that does that just shows me that like you're in it, even if you're not in it as much as somebody else, at least you're in it for the right reasons, you know? Yeah.
Well, I had always felt like I had a strong testimony. I, for a number of reasons, didn't feel like I could or wanted to serve a mission. And there was a time when I was planning on serving a mission, but ended up not going. And then really during that time of my life, I mean, you say I was genuine about the church. I look back on that time and I think I was really struggling just because I wanted to feel like I was genuine about the church, but it was hard for me at that time.
Right.
And
but even just being honest about
missionaries really helped me at that time. That's honestly what I needed back then.
Yeah, we were definitely, you guys, the whole Edwardsville ward, dude, back then, like just such an answer to my prayers. And it was, I'll rewind a little bit to kind of emphasize that concept as well. Was huge eye opener to me of just coming out to the Midwest and actually living here and being in the church. I have my grandparents live here. Or they're from around Missouri, Oklahoma. I had been to church out here. I had gone to a church on Sunday, but it's different than actually living somewhere and being a part of a ward for X amount of time. And once I got to do that, it was like shocking to me, earth-shattering, how different the wards were here than versus in Utah. just the overall devotion and genuineness from the members was like, again, night and day. And I don't have any reason to be biased about that. Like people back in Utah, I tell that to, and they can't figure it out. And I'm like, I'm not trying to like, I lived in Utah. I was the biggest advocate for St. George growing up. I told everybody, I was like, dude, I'm never moving from St. George. This place is perfect. It's the perfect size. It's got one of everything. The weather's fine. It's perfect, dude. I'm never leaving here. And I had no reason to shoot down Utah. But this just changed everything. Like I came out here and I was like, dude, there is a night and day difference in the membership and how the church rolls out here than in Utah. And not only that, but then Edwardsville even kicked that up a notch. I felt like the Edwardsville ward stood out among the other wards in the St. Louis area.
I was really lucky to be part of the Edwardsville ward when I grew up in it, because when I grew up in the Edwardsville ward, it was a powerhouse of a ward in our stake.
Yeah.
We had phenomenal members who were just incredible people. And it seemed like we were all close. It was the stereotypical, I wouldn't say the stereotypical, I would say it was the definition of a family ward.
Ward family. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
It was great.
That's how I described it. And it just the fact that was even possible was just like a huge eye opener to me. It was like, oh my gosh, dude, like, yeah, that we say that the church is the same anywhere you go in the world. You go to any meeting house and they'll have the same structure. But I'm like, dude, the wards can actually be better or worse. Yeah.
The gospel is the same, but the church itself is not the same.
Yeah, and
the
that's,
organization.
People are like, oh yeah, you have stalwarts in every ward and you have bad apples in every ward. And I'm like, that's true, but I'm telling you that an entire ward can be a better ward than another, which is just like, and so then that just opens up this can of worms of like, how then? What is it that's doing this? How do you just get lucky and just have a bunch of people move to the same spot that are in it to win it, or are people actually making a difference here? That and they're doing things here that may not be being done elsewhere. Anyway, the point was I was like, this is where like, this is cool. This is how the church should be. And I wasn't getting that in Utah. And so I think that describes my mission pretty sufficiently. I came back from my mission. I'm going to take a look at my notes where I'm at here. I'll kind of blaze through a few of these things. So I got home from my mission, and the first significant thing that really happened upon coming back was, I popped my shoulder out of socket.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I
remember that.
It was like, I got home in March 2017. This happened in October of 2017. And I had always, my plan at that time, my dream was to try and walk on to like the local D1 basketball team and try out. And even if I worked my freaking butt off to do that, by the way. I felt, I'm now just another aged white guy that says that he would have played college ball had he not gotten hurt. But I mean, unfortunately, that's truly how I feel. And I don't even know. I mean, D1 is freaking tough, dude. D1 is tough.
You go into any gym where a D1 guy has played, and you're just going to get wrecked.
The hope that I had was that I had played against a lot of people that had played D1, and I had played with them, and they were still, plenty athletic, and they were, and I could hang with them. And so I was like, if I just pick one of these local ones that isn't like, Utah Tech isn't going to they're not playing in the NCAA tournament, right? And so I was like, I could just get one of these ones that aren't as good and maybe have a shot. Still probably not, but that's what I wanted to do. And I felt like I got there. By the way, I just figured I'd share this little piece of wisdom that kind of motivated me was that what my dad said was he told me that I'd be surprised if he even remembers telling me this, but he said that, like, if you want to play D1, if you want to play like high level basketball, you want to be a D1 athlete. He was like, you can do that by two ways you can do that. One is genetics, and you have genetics. And he said the other way is by overcoming genetics. And then he said, and overcoming genetics is really, really, really hard.
Yeah. No kidding.
And I was like, and I felt like I worked that hard, at least for a season, for a few, like a year or two. I got to the point where I could hang. And I don't have good genetics. I've got super flat feet, and I mean, I've got just enough height. I feel like 6 foot, maybe a little over. You've got a decent shot, but I would have loved to have been 6'5".
Yeah, me too.
Anyway,
I would have loved to have been 6'5".
Anyway,
I could have done a lot with that. Those 5 inches.
That's but the shoulder injury just like put everything to a screeching halt. Because my dream was to get a little bit of college, but I didn't want to go pro, didn't want to get like a full ride scholarship didn't want to play in the NCAA tournament. All I wanted to do was just get on the map, on the basketball map. I just wanted to get some experience because I had never played high school. I dropped out. And I wanted to be a basketball coach. And I was like, I gotta play. I gotta play, and I gotta get connections, and I gotta do something. I gotta get involved this way, or nobody's gonna sneeze at me. And so that was the plan. And then my shoulder got messed up, and I couldn't. I thought that it was just like because it just popped right back into socket, and the people I was with, it was a flag football game, which I've never played flag football in my adult life before or after that. And it was, I just got tangled up on a play, and we both hit the ground, and my shoulder popped out of its socket. I thought I broke it, and then it was just like whoosh, right back in. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Second down, let's go. And then little did I know that would be the dark cloud over my head for the next forever. Because it just disallowed me to, like, anytime from then on, if I like blocked somebody too hard, or, I try to dunk, or just anything, any kind of contact with my arm at full length, the shoulder would pop out, and I'd be out for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks while
That's
it
awful.
recovered. And so it just it was just a huge damper on the whole operation until and I wanted to overcome it so bad, dude. I was like, dude, I can't make this an excuse, because I'm healing and I can play again and I can be pretty good, but I've lost mobility, and it's, I'm not going to be as good as I was. And it just sucked. And then my ACL tore, and then I was like, dude, it's over.
Yeah.
And
after an injury like that, I mean, we look at professional athletes who are able to come back from those, and we look at what they were compared to before. They're never the same. And I think we don't really get the full grasp of that because they're still professional athletes. But that is a tough thing to recover from.
Yeah. Like we see what happens to professional athletes and now be me and not have millions of dollars and genetics and resources to,
yeah.
So I was toast. I had surgery. Well, actually I'll get to that in a bit. So I do want to talk about, let's see. During that time, I had a bunch of jobs. I worked at a bank. Probably talk about that another time. I got this job at the middle school that I went to. I was a paraprofessional. I wanted to make sure that I went over this because this is like one of the craziest things that has ever happened to me. And it does require some context. I got a job as a paraprofessional, and this was the middle school. I say middle school, but it's intermediate school, 6th and 7th grade, so kind of like younger middle schoolers. And so I got a job as a paraprofessional. The job listing was like I was the paraprofessional that was supposed to be over like the kids that had problems misbehaving. Like there were some paraprofessionals that just like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like there were some paraprofessionals that were teacher aides.
That's what my mom does for a living. My mom was a behavioral teacher before I was born. After we all grew up, she started doing paraprofessional work for the behavioral kids in Waterloo.
Really?
And now she actually teaches the behavioral kids in Waterloo.
Okay.
But she does 2nd and 3rd grade.
Oh, so like elementary.
Schoolers.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, so you get there you have the handful of kids that and so that was my job was like, and that's what they told me when they like the vice principal told me. She was like, we want you to earn rapport with the student body. We want you to we want you to be somebody that these kids can trust. They were like, eventually we want to get you your own classroom so that one of these kids are acting up, that we can send them over to your classroom and they can feel like they have a place to go to and somebody to talk to and chill out and do their assignment, do their schoolwork in there. And so we were there like, and they had this other guy in the district that would go from, he went to multiple schools, and he was like, they described him as like the fun uncle type of guy. Like he was just like that was his job, was just to be like this, this big Polynesian dude that was happy and nice to everybody and cool and he was like, and they were like, you're going to work with him and you're going to like, by the way, I think I talked to him like twice the whole time I worked. And he never came to the school. He came like 2 times the whole time I worked there. But that was the point, is they were like, you got to earn rapport, be these kids' friends. And I was freaking good at that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Especially with middle schoolers.
Yeah.
They already think like a younger adult is like their idol. I was Kevin excels at that kind of stuff.
I had much more in common with the middle schoolers than I did with most adults. And so yeah, I felt like I was really good at that. And the student body, I earned rapport with them really quickly. Like they just loved me. And because I really loved them. They were so many of those kids, just super cool kids. And I just remember the biggest reason that I feel like I was good at that is because I'm just good at remembering what it was when I was that age, and what it was like, and what they care about and what they don't care about, and what, and and so they really liked me, but it was to the point where some of the other teachers like started complaining, but they didn't complain. They would talk to the students about it. Like eventually I started having students come up to me and tell me, they're like, dude, you're going to get fired. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, like this teacher so-and-so said that you're probably going to get fired. And I was like, oh,
that's a really inappropriate thing to be talking about students.
I know
about.
that's what, my Ashley and I were like, what the heck? Like, that's freaking weird. And that's, it's super unprofessional. Like, why are we gossiping with the students about other
somebody's
staff?
job, the
staff. Yeah. And they were like, they just think that you're too big of a distraction and that you're, whatever. And I heard a bunch of reasons, but I just was like, okay, well, I think they're just teachers that are weird about it. I don't know. And I don't think I'm going to actually get fired for it. But, so I started hearing that, and then, spring break. So I had been working there for about 6 months. I got the job in October, and this was during COVID. Like, we had all the face masks, and that was annoying, but everybody had the face masks on, and, it was October, went to March, and in December, in between, was when I tore my ACL. And that year, because I tore my ACL, I was like, I have to have surgery on this. I was putting off the surgery on my shoulder because, nobody's got money for that. But we had insurance, and if I had got the ACL done and replaced, our insurance deductible would have been met, and I could get the shoulder done basically for free. And so I got these two horrible surgeries very close to each other. And I'll get to that in a minute, but I was like in recovery. I was in recovery for the ACL, and I got called into the principal's office. I did get called into the principal's office. It just wasn't until I was,
which is even worse,
23 years old.
You had no prior experience of this either, so you had nothing to go off of.
Yeah, I was like, the new thing for me, and so she calls me into the office, and she tells me that. By the way, this was the day before spring break. I don't know if I said that already, but this was like the last day until spring break. Then we get a week off. She calls me in, and she's like, we had a complaint. She tells me that they had a complaint that one of the female students was getting unwanted attention from me. And I was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh no, this is bad. And
that's about the worst case scenario.
It was the worst case scenario because I genuinely had no idea who it was.
Yeah.
And that was the worst of it because I didn't know how to correct it. There was something obviously being misinterpreted, or something was being told. So I asked, I was like, do I get to know who this student is or who complained? And she was like, no. And so I was like,
so how do you even go about
that?
So
here's what I did.
And how do you even hear your side of the story?
Yeah. So first of all,
if you knew who it was, you could possibly give insight on what it is.
So first of all, what I told the principal was, I was like, listen, I don't, okay, great. I don't get to know who it is, but here's how I feel. And I to this day, I mean, we ended up writing a grievance letter and everything because of, you'll hear how wronged I felt in this situation. I feel like there are a lot of people, even to this day, that can vouch for my side of things. My perspective was, again, there were a large majority of the student body that really, really liked me. And I was very, very careful about,
you have to be.
Yeah, about that stuff for this reason.
Exactly.
For the reason of a parent being like, coming up with some crazy idea, and it's even worse now. It's just getting worse as time goes on, as parents are more insane and the child can do no wrong, and they just start making stuff up or just misinterpreting things. Even, I shouldn't even say making stuff up, but the point is I was just very, very cautious about that stuff. And especially with the female students. There were a few of the male students that I was like, that would come up to me more often than not. And those were the ones that I'd be like, dude, what's up? But even the male students, all the student body, dude, I had plenty of students coming up to me and talking to me. And I wasn't just going to give them the cold shoulder, right?
Yeah.
So I talked to them. But that was the thing, is that I never, ever engaged a conversation. I never instigated a conversation ever with a student. I had plenty of conversation with the students that I did not have to start. And so I never went out of my way to go talk to, unless it was like corrective, unless I needed to get after a student or tell them to stop doing something or start doing something. But I never was like, hey, I'm going to go shoot the breeze with this student, especially the female students.
Seriously.
And so the fact that, and I was like, I had to double check with I was like, the complaint is that she's getting unwanted attention from me. And, or I was like, not enough attention, maybe, like feeling like they're getting left out.
FOMO.
Yeah. That's originally, when I heard her say it, that's just what registered, because that made the most sense. Is I was like, oh great, somebody feels like somebody's jealous and they're feeling neglected but it was like, they're getting unwanted. They don't want you to be talking to them when you are. And I was like, I have no idea who this could possibly be. I don't do that with anyone. And there was one student that I felt was like a pretty happy-go-lucky person, one of the female students. And there was one day where she just seemed to be like really down in the dumps. And that was the only thing that came to my mind in this moment. I'm in the principal's office. The only thing that came to my mind was that day I was like, are you good? Like, everything okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. I just didn't sleep a lot. And I was like, okay. That was it. That was the only time that I can recall where I don't think approached someone
out of line.
Right. I don't even think it was this I don't even think that she would have done it, that she would have said anything like that. And was, to this day, I don't think it was her. And then the principal even said something to the effect of, when I told her my side, when I told her what I just told you, she said something to the effect of like, a lot of times what happens is like these young girls like get crushes on the young male staff, and things get said, and people get jealous and feel hurt. And I'm like, it's great that you are saying this, and I, it's probably a thing, but the claim is that they're getting unwanted attention from me.
You're going out of your way to talk to them.
They don't want,
and they're giving you signs that they don't want it.
Right.
And
so
you're just ignoring that. That's the claim.
Right. And again, just like, I was
wild.
clueless. And so the only resolution that I had, she didn't even suggest anything really. Like, there were a few things that she was like, yeah, like maybe do this a little bit better or do this. And that wasn't even, it was just more of like you're in here, so I'm going to give you some feedback that isn't really critical, but that complaint was just like something you got to be aware of and got to watch out for. But she didn't offer any, I mean, what advice even is there to offer?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, the only thing that I can do is just even more so give the female students the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
And I had been hesitant to do that because I didn't want to be the sexist teacher that only talks to the male students and is chummy with them. And then when the female students come to me, I don't give them the time of day. But I was like, I think I'm just going to have to kind of do that now because you're not telling me who this was. And so I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to have to do. And so we'll see how it goes. And then the other little trivial things, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do better. And then spring break, we get a week off. We come back from spring break, one day. and mind you, this was before lunch. There was a teacher that I had been helping out in her classroom at a certain period. And there was a student in there in particular. I never knew how good of a job I was doing with these behavioral students in their classes with their teachers, because I never really got feedback from the teachers. Is like I just moved from one class to the next, and I didn't know what the students were like when I wasn't there versus when I was there, and the teachers weren't coming up to me and being like, "Dude, you're helping out so much," or "Dude, why are you even in here? You're making it worse." Like I just didn't get any feedback from anybody.
Nothing like leading the blind. I mean, seriously, like how the heck do you even, how do they not communicate anything?
Yeah.
This just goes to show you, my mom has said multiple times that it seems like most school districts just sweep those kids under the rug. And
then, yeah, I know your mom's got some takes about the school system.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I didn't really get any feedback, but this day when we all came back from spring break, I hadn't been in her class for like a few days because I was called to help out in another one. And so I kind of just put this one on hold. And so she came and found me and was like, "Why have you been coming to class?" Like, and that was the first time that a teacher was like, actually told me that I had made a difference. She was like, you've been really helpful. And I'd like to have you back if you're available. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah, sure. And, but then before that class even started, I get called back into the principal's office and she's like, "You're done." And
what?
She was like, we're going to have to let you go. And I had no time to, she offered me XYZ ways to improve and here's what we want you to do a little bit better. Didn't have any time to do any of it. It was just like, "You're done." And I didn't get any reason why. I just assumed that it had something to do with the previous complaint and that it wasn't subsiding. And they were just too worried about it. I don't know, but I mean, there was no time for correction. It was just spring break, and then I was fired. And so when she said that, I just was like, am I going to try and fight for this? And I was like, there is nothing that I can say in this moment that's going to like change her mind or save my job. And so, and I'm a very logically driven person. So I was like, okay. And so I had to like go home and get my tag and then bring it back. But as I was driving home, I felt very wronged. I was like, I didn't do anything. All I did was a very, very good job of according to what you wanted me to do and what you told me to do. I was like, I freaking kicked butt at this job. And now I'm fired. And you wouldn't tell me any details about this complaint, this very serious, potentially very serious complaint, problematic complaint. I got no details on it. And you didn't even give me a chance to fix the trivial things that you said I wasn't doing as well. it was just like fired. And so I felt very wronged, but I wasn't like upset about it. I don't spend a lot of time being upset about
I
stuff
would have been
like that.
tore up about that for weeks. That would have been
well, because again, like my logically driven brain was just like, time to go find a new job.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I'm fired from this one. I'm cooked. See, Ashley was a lot more ticked off about it than I was, and she was the one that really headed the grievance letter and going to going up the ranks to the district and complaining, and the district basically got back to us and said, "You're a professional. They can do whatever you want. They can do whatever they want with you." And
that's a great response.
Yeah, I was like, okay, and so I was just like, I'm done working there. Time to go find another job. And so here's the interesting thing about the whole thing, though, was that up until this point in my life, I had heard, and you watch movies, TV shows, and you hear even other people talk about, I had heard them talk about these having reoccurring dreams.
Yeah.
And dude, genuinely, I did not believe them. I didn't believe in them. I was like,
I've had some reoccurring dreams.
People had talked about them all the time, and I was like, how do you have a reoccurring dream, dude? You don't get to choose what you dream about. And I was like, You're telling me that you're dreaming about the same thing you're having a dream every night, first of all, and it's the same one? There's no freaking way. How is that even possible? And sure enough, I started having a reoccurring dream for like a month. For a month straight, I would have a dream. It wasn't the same exact dream, but the same thing happened. And it was the principal firing me.
Dang.
And it was in all shapes and forms. It was like sometimes she'd be in a tirade and just like bust through the doors and like, you're out of here, dude. And then other times it was just like an even softer meeting than the one that I actually had. And she's like, yeah, we just don't think you're...
It'd be like Michael from The Office. You fired.
Yeah, it was like... Yeah, it was just like... But that every night. And I was like, this is bizarre, dude. Because I felt fine. While I was awake, I was fine.
Yeah.
And that was the time of my life where that was solid evidence that you have a subconscious.
Oh, yeah.
That you have a subconscious that can literally be affected differently than your conscience.
Yeah.
And because I just felt fine through the whole process. I was like, yeah, I got screwed. But I'm fine. Like, time to get a new job. I got a new job and I'm not, it's done. But my subconscious was not happy about that. And it just like,
your subconscious was just secretly raging all the rage you should have felt.
And even to this day, because that happened, that I also feel like I've experienced like trauma from that. Because now, again, I get put in like these youth callings in the church, because that's like instantly I join a ward and they're like, oh, dude, this guy's great with the youth. And like, we got to get him. And dude, I like it. I love working with the youth, and and it's an important calling. Holy moly. One of the, it's a very important responsibility. And that's why I love it, is because that's the time to make a difference. And I want to make a difference. But ever since that happened, there's like, even in these callings, like when I even get an inkling that something is like getting too personal, which sucks, because that was the opposite of my experience. Like, this church leader, we had a very personal relationship, and I trusted the crap out of him. And that's what made the difference, is because I could go to this guy and I would ask him any question that I had, as deep of doctrine as I wanted to go. He was there, and he would give me the time, and we could go talk about it. And it was totally appropriate, and it had such it's still having a positive effect on my life right now. And I can't bring myself to do that in 2025 because of this traumatic experience, and because everybody is freaking on edge about it. And they're like, we
should
don't
sue
we
for
don't trust. Yeah. I'm a paraprofessional, so they don't care.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
Emotional damages, though.
yeah, it was just
they're real.
It was weird, man, because that was like I was a non-believer in trauma and reoccurring dreams and all this mumbo jumbo subconscious stuff, and then it happened, dude. And now it's still a thing. Like there's, I'm not like afraid. I'm not afraid of the youth. I'm not afraid of, but there's just like this thing where I'm like,
now
I just kind of like physically feel freaked out a little bit, and I'm on my toes, even though I probably shouldn't be. And
that is one thing that kind of makes me nervous about potentially having a youth calling is where, like, being in that exact situation.
That the parents, the students, it's all
that
just
would
like,
stress me out.
Yeah, it's stressful. And that was, I think everybody feels a level of stress about that, but mine's like it's like a trauma. I don't even, I probably feel less stress about that than the average bear.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, I'm freaked out a little bit by it. But then
it sucks how much one wrong decision can affect your life, even on the part of somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were only covering their back, trying to prevent a lawsuit.
Right. Yeah. And I don't have any
but
animosity.
It's still, it still affects you.
But yeah, I'm not like swearing revenge on the principal or like, I probably
plotting.
If the rule is do whatever you want with your paraprofessionals, I probably would have done the same thing. As soon as a parent comes to me with that, I'd be like, oh man, this guy's got to go. Bye.
Yep.
But I do feel like it could have been handled a little bit more professionally. Maybe not even necessarily from the principal, but just from the whole staff. Like the whole process was kind of lame, which that I'm like, but I'm not like shaking my fist at anyone,
Yeah.
But anyway, fast forward. So I get a job at my buddy's pizza restaurant, which was largely based off of the restaurant that my parents bought and owned for a short period of time. I think he bought it and just kind of did it better. Sorry, mom and dad, but I think my buddy, he was just a freaking hard worker, dude. He was the son of the construction boss that I'm talking about. He's just a workhorse,
runs in his
dude.
Blood.
Yeah, and I have so much respect for them. I wouldn't have been able to build this room if it weren't for my experience there and what they helped me do. But anyway, I worked there for a bit. I was doing pizza dough. I was in charge of making all the dough, which like you actually have to, lift 40-pound bags of dough and this was after I had been recovered from my knee sufficiently to do the job, but then I had to get shoulder surgery. And so I had to quit. I could take just like a ton of time off while my shoulder recovered, or I could just be like, I'm going to find a new job. And so I was like, I can't work the job anymore. I'm going to quit. I got to find something else to do. And so my shoulder surgery was scheduled on Tuesday. It was on a Tuesday. My last day at this pizza place was a Friday. And I got a call on Monday from Kairos Time Gaming. Kairos Time Gaming, dude. Kairos Time YT. He had ran into a buddy of mine at a skating rink. And so I played the crap out of this Brawl Stars game. This mobile game, and
which I had never heard of until you told me about it.
Most people haven't.
I still literally don't know what it is, but I heard a youth referring to it recently, and I was like, oh, I guess this game's getting some traction.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, is that it has monumental traction outside the United States. I've explained this to a few people, but
I feel like the game Free Fire
is big too. But see, Free Fire,
I've got a brother-in-law who plays Free Fire.
Free Fire is also a mobile game.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the thing, is that that's how mobile games are, is they're very, very popular everywhere in the world except the United States, because the United States, we have a lot of money here, and we have PlayStations and Xboxes. We have console gamers and PCs. Everybody else has their phone, and they play phone games. And so,
nobody here plays mobile.
Yeah. So, we do, but not seriously. We have
it's like a time killer. If you do it.
Candy Crush Saga. But
yeah.
But for whatever reason, I got into the game right after it came out, in fact, it was in the beta right after I got home from my mission, and it was my buddies. They were like, dude, you got to start playing this game. And I'm sure that after 2 years of not playing any games, I was just like, hey man, whatever game it is, I'm down. And I just immediately loved it. And even when they stopped playing it, both my buddies stopped playing it, I was still just playing the crap out of it, because I felt like I got pretty good at it. And so I just like poured so many hours into it. I had a job like working the night shift at this place, and just like all night I'd play this game, because it was just, you had to sit on your butt and do nothing for 9 hours. And so anyway, I knew who this guy was already. He was like one of the biggest YouTubers for the game. So I knew who he was. Turns out he had like, he lived in my town, and he had moved there, and he ran into my buddy at this skating rink. And I mean, I don't know how much of this he wants me to divulge, but, my buddy recognized him. He was like, dude, you're Kairos time. And he was like, yeah. And then Kairos was like, dude, I actually need help like making videos. And he was like, do you want to help me make videos? And my buddy, who was the manager for the pizza place that I was working at, he was also working there. He was kind of in that thing. And he was like the manager right alongside my other buddy who owned the place. And so he was like, I'm not going to do it, but I know who you need to call. And so he gave him my number. And again, it was on that Monday. It was like literally, I was in between this situation. Like I was like, I'm going in for surgery on Tuesday. I got to recover. But then after that, I don't know what I'm freaking doing. I got to go find, I have no idea what I'm going to go do. I literally have to just like start applying to like I'm 16 years old again, to just random. But he called me on Monday and he's like, dude, I want you to come work for me. And I was obviously just freaking thrilled. I couldn't believe it. I knew, I mean, are you kidding?
That's like, an incredible opportunity. Especially for somebody who you watched like his YouTube videos.
You're fangirling over these YouTubers, and then
they call you and ask
you on your phone.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, I have a job for you. Right in between. It was just like a complete godsend. And that was my story. That became my sacrament meeting story. Because
are you a believer in coincidences in general?
No,
I'm not either.
No.
I don't believe there is such thing as a coincidence. I think I think we see coincidences because we don't want to acknowledge that God exists and is actually caring about us, but it's just God.
I've even tried like saying like, God will do things, but there's also coincidences. But I'm at the point where I'm like, dude, all things
I
work,
used to think that too.
all things work together for our good. He literally orchestrates all of it. And
you couldn't have called me about this podcast at a better time because I would have not had time beforehand.
Not been able to do it.
No.
Yeah, I know. And that's been something that's been weighing on my mind. It's a weirdly similar situation to the one that I'm talking about right now. But anyway, of course, the biggest difference is I don't have 1.5 million subscribers.
Yeah. But still, I mean, it's just funny how things happen like that.
Yeah, it's just
opportunities present themselves at the right time.
Right. And I feel like that is because of hard work. See, because I was gaming and I love to play the game, but I worked hard at the game, number one. But number two, I was working hard on music at that time. I had bought like a $3,000 online course in audio engineering, and I worked my butt off on that. And so it wasn't like I was just like wasting my life away playing this game. I was working hard at everything that I did. And I feel like God rewards. And that was the other thing, is that on top of it, I made sure that I made my time for God.
Yeah.
And that I like, no matter what I'm doing, like, as long as you're doing what God wants you to do, as long as you're serving and magnifying your calling and putting him first, then I feel like he's going to reward whatever kind of what kind of effort that you put forward.
Yeah,
and this was a perfect example of that. It's like a freaking video game, dude. A video game that nobody even knows about in the United States. I was playing the crap out of it, and then this dude just comes out of nowhere on the day that I need. And so that's what I feel like you hear stories like that in church growing up, and everybody has like these freaking like crazy miraculous stories, and you're sitting there like, when's mine?
Yeah. When is mine? Is it ever going to happen?
Right. Like I'm part of the same. I believe in the same
that
God.
Sounds too good to be true because it's never happened to me.
Yeah, and you get to like, I was convinced. I was like, did it really happen like that?
Yeah.
Like I don't disbelieve that it happened to a degree, but like, did it really happen like that? Like, this sounds like a Hollywood film, dude. And then bang, dude, it happened.
But man, is God one heck of a Hollywood director.
I swear, I couldn't agree more. Like, it happened. And I was like, well, put that idea to bed. It was like, it happens, dude. And so that, like, at that moment, that idea of just like chasing your dreams, I guess, it just became a reality. Like, it's the reason that I'm sitting here. You know, because my audio engineering thing was the first thing that I really put in a lot of faith in. I was like, dude, I like music, and I think I'm pretty good at making music, and I want to learn how to do it. And so I was like, but I'm not going to like skimp out and just try to like bang around on some MIDI instruments and you know, use GarageBand and call myself an artist. Like, I'm going to take a course and learn how to audio engineer and actually make music. And that's the type of stuff that I wish I could like tell people, because I ended up not doing that. But it's still skills that I use today and that I will continue to use. Number one, I'm very glad that I did it, and I still love making music. I will make more music in the future. But it was like God just gave this job for this video game that I was playing, and was like, do this. This is another thing you love to do. Here you go. Do it for money. And that's just such an unreal, like, everybody I tell that story to, especially like the people that are playing the game or just play video games in general. Like that's a youth's I was all the parents' worst nightmare, because
for real, because
they're like, oh, my kid thinks he's gonna make money playing his video games, and I'm like, I did.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and now you show up, and and so, but that's the thing, dude, is I'm like, I don't want to tell everybody I don't want to tell all the youth of the world that they're going to make money playing video games, but I do want to tell them that if they take it seriously enough, if they're willing to put God first in their life, number one, if they actually have the faith to do that, because that is the key.
Yeah.
That was the key is if you put God first in your life, you may not even end up playing video games, but God will just lead you in the direction that you didn't know you'd be happier in.
Yeah.
Or he'll help you do it. Or you can do it if you put in enough effort and faith, and you can get there, dude. That's what I want to.
God cares about what you care about.
Right. And he, he does, and he also knows what's better for you than you do.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just important, like, whether or not he gives you what you wanted when you're a kid, or he has a better plan for you, or if the plan that you had was his plan also, he's the one with the better plan either way. And so I was like, I gotta do that first, and then whatever else. And so that's kind of my, anyway, so I start working for this guy. I literally have nothing but good things to say about him. I mean, turns out he's a member of the church. He served a mission. Like that
is cool.
Which is, again, the chances of that.
What are the odds?
You
second to none, or slim to
unbelievable. Yeah. And just a great guy, great communicator. The work has been rough at times over the last few years. And the biggest reason that I'm still doing it even is because of my respect for him, and just because I like working with him. Like, even when the work dies out, the passion for the work itself dies out. Like, the thing that's keeping me there is just my respect for the guy. Because he's just been so great to work with. Just a colossal blessing, and seemingly out of nowhere. And that kind of brings me to the close of I think this episode here. Is this podcast. We felt like we needed to move to Missouri, number one. Oh, you know what? I actually will say in fact, it was right before I started working for Kairos Time. That was when I was introduced to Michael Rush's books. And that's a conversation for another time, but that was like a complete freaking game changer for me as well. He's a member that just kind of writes. He's got a lot of ideas about the last days, and like a lot of the prophecies that are supposed to be fulfilled. And it was just like one of the big. It was almost the biggest opener, the biggest eye opener of my entire life, reading those books. And people are like super afraid of stuff like that. I was, oh man. I actually have so much to say about that. It's
a massive topic.
It's the stigma. It's the stigma again with growing up in the Utah culture. 'Cause he just writes a lot about how just very, very, crazy, for lack of a better word, crazy ideas about the scriptures, and how there's I can't even I can't even get it, dude. I actually, that's one person I really, really hope to get on this podcast one day. I would love to have a conversation with him about it, but they're just very, very crazy ideas. Like, so for example, when I was a missionary, I heard a member talking about like, you know what, dude, I actually have to talk about this. I have to do it. It's too impactful. Back when I was back to my youth, I had heard that Joseph. Have you ever heard that Joseph? In fact, it was in one of the Madsen lectures that he said that, like, he told the saints at the time, he's like, if I were to tell you who I was, that you'd slay me for blasphemy. And there were other things that I had heard that just imply, like, that Joseph would say things that, like, if I were to tell you everything that I knew, you would, like, you just wouldn't believe it. And not only would you not believe it, but you'd literally think that I had gone crazy and would want to kill me.
I remember. And
does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah. I remember. I can hear his voice saying that phrase.
Yeah. And, so somebody had I think it was like maybe my brother that had said that once, and it just, that intrigued me. Even as a youth, like, I was so bewildered by that comment, because I felt like the saints back then were honestly, again, this is a conversation for another day, I feel like they were more devoted than the saints today and more faithful. I mean, they had a lot less to go off of, and they did a lot more. Again, I could talk about that concept a lot in another episode or whatever, but they were devoted. They were very devoted. And here's Joseph telling them that if I were, even you guys would literally kill me. You'd just think I'd gone nuts. And so when I heard that, I was like, what? What possibly could he have said? What possibly could he have known that if he were to tell them that they would turn their backs on him to that degree? Like, how crazy are we talking here? And I was like, there's nothing that he could tell me that I would be like, no, dude, you've lost it. And yet then I go on my mission and I hear something about how, like, a missionary comes to me and they're like, oh yeah, there was this member in this ward that would talk about, like, how the 12 tribes or the lost 10 tribes are actually, like, they have way higher technology. They're out there and they've advanced in technology way faster than we did. And they're like they have a lot to do with the UFO phenomenon going on and like all this stuff. And I hear that as a missionary growing up in the culture that I did, where it was like, all of that is just a bunch of hooey. And
that's a really taboo subject.
It is. And I heard that and I was like, yeah, dude, whatever member you're talking about, he's freaking nuts, dude. Like, I don't know what books he's reading, or I don't know where he's got those ideas from, but he's cooked. And then years later, yet I say that to this missionary, and then the same night I kneel down at my bedside and say, I'm ready for more knowledge. God, I'm ready for the next level, dude. Like, you're asking, it shall be given you. Like, I'll give you whatever you're prepared to receive. And I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm ready to believe the next thing. But here I am shooting it down in an instant. And because that was the thing, is I was shooting down this idea, before I even looked at it, before I actually considered it like you're supposed to consider it. Like we're asking people as missionaries to consider the church in general. We're literally going to people and being like, hey, we believe that this 14-year-old kid went out into the forest and saw God, and now here's our church. So, like, does that sound good to you? You know, obviously that's the craziest thing. That's
if you can believe
phooey.
that, you can believe anything.
I know, and yet we don't. And yet because of the culture, it's like my parents and my family, friends, it's like all of us were like, oh yeah, we'll believe that in a heartbeat. But the second you talk about aliens, it's like, nope. Nope, that's crazy stuff. All the conspiracies, all of them hooey. We haven't looked at them. We know nothing about these things, but all we know is that they're not real. And that was like, that was what these books, that's what this author opened my eyes to, is just, you know, there are still things, little finer details and theories that he comes up with that I don't necessarily agree with. But the macro ideas, the general ideas of certain things are 100% spot on, that people are just not, that members are not ready. They're non-believers essentially to these concepts because they're too crazy. And that was the big thing. That was the big game changer. I was like,
you know, that is a really good point, because not only just about crazy, what we consider crazy topics, but just in general, we have a problem with your own knowledge and your own ideas getting in the way of real revelation and knowledge and truth.
Yeah. But like society comes first, really. And then it's whatever God tells us.
Yeah.
When it should be the other way around.
Exactly. We try and fit what God says into how we think of society.
Right. What makes sense to us. What even seems realistic to us rather than what is.
Yeah.
When shocker, that's how the whole freaking standard works is. Nothing in the scriptures makes real scientific sense, but we're the first ones in lines to be like, oh yeah, Son of God that performs miracles. Yep.
Yeah.
I believe that, but that's just because it's the normal thing to do. But as soon as something just as extraordinary or even a little less extraordinary, if you think about it, is presented, we're just like, nope. Just because it's not part of the norm right now.
You know, it's funny. When the government released the files about UFOs being real, I really thought it would like majorly blow up. And I feel like it's still kind of gone under the radar.
It is. But the tables, I think the tables are turning in a major way. It's not, we don't have the majority, but I think the tables are turning. And I believe that is a big part of prophecy even. But again, that's a rabbit hole that we probably don't have time to go down. But I
did see something the other day that said that there is a universe traveler that entered into the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah, I think I've seen like a post or two saying something similar. But that's the thing, is that they're, it's not all like, it's not just like I'm going to believe every single thing that I see online from now on, but I'm not going to just like turn my nose up at it either. And that's what I had always done. And that's what I feel like is therein lies the problem.
I think it's just a good rule of thumb in general to practice your life where you are open to new ideas.
Right.
It doesn't have to be about the most crazy. It doesn't have to just be about crazy things. It can be about just anything. You just have to be willing to change your mind. A lot of people are unwilling to change their mind, even when they're wrong.
Oh,
and are proven to be wrong.
I mean,
So how much more so do we need to be open?
That's the biggest problem of our day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the thing that was the thing that kind of reinforced the crazy ideas, is because, I got into these books and every time, dude, I guarantee there are people listening to this right now. And the fact that
guaranteeing that there are people listening to this?
Yeah, I guess I can't guarantee that, period. But I bet you that there are members that hear that, they hear the term LDS author, and they're already freaked out. Because that's what you hear about these members that are authors, but they're talking about some crazy things, and there are crazies out there.
Oh,
there are members that have gone off the rails. And that's why this stigma has been created, is that anybody that isn't the prophet is a whack job, and you're going to be deceived. And that's the thing though, dude, is that it's been years now, and it's by the fruits that you know them, right? That's what Jesus taught. It's what is the effect? What is the physical effect that this person's doctrine or his words, his books have had on you? And I'm like, how deceived could I really be by these ideas? All this has made me want to do is be a far more devoted member than I already was.
Yeah.
I practically lived at the temple for the last year, and it just made me want to repent even more than I was, tighten up all the little screws, the spiritual screws in my life, and be even more serious about it than and be even more proactive about it. And it's like, okay, Kevin, you're getting a little crazy now about it. You're getting too much. Well, you're the one that's telling to listen to the prophets. What are they all saying? We're out of time.
Yeah.
Hasten the work. Haste. Fast. Now is what they're saying.
It really is.
And
President Nelson,
we're just downplaying it.
Drove that down our throats the last couple of general conferences.
That's what I mean. And people, you can look at it one of two ways, is like, are we talking about like now, or like now we've been saying that the last 200 years since the church started now?
No.
And that's how a lot of people look at it. And I'm like, it's now. And
it's certainly, to me, I used to think that there was no possible way the second coming could happen in my life.
Yeah. But there's so many people that don't want it to be that way, because it's just we just want to do our thing that we're comfortable with and then die that way and leave it for somebody else.
I hope it's during my lifetime at this point.
Well, yeah, now we all do, because
now
life freaking sucks.
Out.
Yeah, it's just getting awful here. Anyway, a big game changer for me. And that was so the last thing that I'll kind of talk about here is President Nelson's not his last talk, but the
Maybe
last famous one, his Peacemakers Needed talk.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's one of the historical, that's one that's going in the history books, and that's what inspired this podcast. That's what inspired, because he said, because I was like, I'm still, I moved to St. Louis. That was 100% just a revelation from God. I didn't even know really why. Again, I feel like the second coming is just around the corner, and I want to be, I didn't move to Independence, but I wanted to be near it.
Yeah.
And that really is a big reason why I moved to St. Louis. That was the primary reason I wanted to. I don't know if Ashley
I used to think it was me, but
yeah. Number 2 was Brandon. But I got here and I was like, okay, well, I'm here, and now it's been like 2 years. I still don't really know what I'm doing, and I got to do something. And And then Charlie Kirk got assassinated.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and that was, I think it, you know, I'm not different from many people, but it affected me in a weirdly major way. You know, he's not the first
Charlie
person.
Kirk's biggest fan, and I'm not necessarily in all agreement with what he used to say, but that one hit me hard too.
Right.
Of all the people that I feel like should be on a hit list, he didn't make it.
No. Oh my gosh.
Not
dude.
at all.
And I've heard things since that I feel like is just ludicrous, but like most people, you know, I had my disagreements with the guy, and, you know, he wasn't perfect. I thought he was pretty mean to some people, but the dude had, I agreed with his macro, the whole thing. I mean, he was a God-fearing man, and he wanted to promote Christianity 100%. And it's, you know, he wasn't a member of the church. He wasn't even promoting the Christianity that I subscribe to.
Yeah.
But the general, you know, and at the very least, even if we don't agree with anything the guy said, just the fact that he take religion out of it, he was a huge believer in being able to, not only being able to share your ideas and talk to people, but that you should do it.
Yeah.
You should do that at all costs. And that was something
we're just showing we can't accept that as a society.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to do that. But I've been too afraid, dude. I've been too afraid. I'm the master of hot takes.
You are.
And I have fear of other people because of, you know, if I start telling people what I really think and how I really feel, people start to like become afraid, and I'm afraid of that.
I feel the same way, because I have a burning desire to share, one, my love for the gospel, and two, just some of the things that I've learned on a deeper level of the gospel. I want to teach people about these things. I want to, and I want to be able to spread peace and do all those kinds of things. But I feel like if I say what I want to say, you start driving people away.
Right.
Because sometimes you can be too bold. It's trying to find a good medium to do it, and a happy medium of what to say.
Yeah. That's like the telltale, or a very old problem. I mean, you know, that's,
but I think people need to hear it.
Right. And I, that was the thing though, is I was like, dude, it was him getting assassinated, because it was like, none of it matters for him anymore. It's like, there's no, he doesn't have to, he's not considering whether do I say this or do I not anymore, because it might be offensive, or it might, because people disagree with it, or because it's wrong. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe I'm just saying something that isn't right, or I'm afraid of how my family is going to start thinking of me, or I'm afraid of how my friends are going to, you know, react to this, or what. He just died. Like I don't know how to really put it into words, but it just was like, you could just be dead tomorrow.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do today?
We go outside, we take a risk.
Right. So what are you going to do today to leave your mark, and to do, what are you going to do today, knowing that it all could just be, that your fears could be no more because you died. You know, you don't fear anymore because you're just not here. You could just be gone tomorrow. So how valid are these fears? How valid are these worries that we have? And And I was like, that's my thing, dude, is I want to say, I've wanted to say things for a long time. I started a little tiny freaking YouTube channel when I came home from my mission, doing the same thing, just yapping in front of a camera about things that I thought were important. And I freaking deleted the videos because I was like, dude, this is cringe and nobody wants to hear it. And I don't even know what I'm talking about. And I'm an idiot. And, but it was like, it's just always been like this desire of mine. And Charlie Kirk was the thing that was like, dude, just freaking do it, because you could be dead. Yeah. You could just get shot and die. And then what will you be more proud of? Will you be proud that you actually just went and freaking did it and posted it, and even if it was garbage, you said it and did it anyway? Or are you going to be proud that you just were too afraid to, and you didn't actually get anything done, and you just worked some lame job and didn't have an effect on anyone?
You know, I think we get stuck in that mindset of fear where we're so afraid to do something like this. We're so afraid to share because we're either afraid of offending, we're afraid of how it feels, we're nervous. But how often do we think, I'm afraid to go before God and tell him that I didn't do any of these things.
Right. Yeah. And that's
a fear that I have. And I still need to act better on it. And
that's a great point too, that I feel like I should address, is because that's the big question. That's the only question that remains for me, is like, am I, you know, I'm getting pretty passionate about this stuff, and I'm getting pretty freaking locked in on these ideas. And again, I feel like the fruits are good. I need to be dang sure that that what I'm saying is true.
Yeah.
At least for the most part. Because of how passionate I am, and because of how serious I am about this, and because of what I'm doing, like, I can be wrong about a few things here and there, and a little trivial details and whatever. But if I'm just like completely misleading people, like, I feel like I'm doing the things in my life to where God would not, that wouldn't be fair. My conscience would be cleared. My conscience would be clear, because, you know, I'm doing everything that I can, that I know to be true, for God. And if he is still just like, dude, you're really deceived right now. Like, you couldn't be further from the truth, which is the only alternative. It's like, with these ideas and what I have come to find in the last few years, like, I'm either on the right track, or I'm way freaking off of it. There's not really an in between. That's how the church is in general. Either Joseph was a prophet, or he was a complete freaking fraud, just manipulative jerk.
Yeah.
No in between there.
Genius, by the way.
Yeah. And that's the same thing. And I just feel like, again, the fruits are what I am going off of. And I'm like, how could these be deceptive fruits if they're just promoting me to be a more devoted disciple of Christ? How off could I really be?
Do you remember in Alma when he talks about the seed growing into faith, and that you're taking faith and basically growing the tree of life out of it?
Right.
He uses a phrase in that sermon, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Where he says, and it will taste good.
Yeah, it'll be delicious to me.
It begins to be delicious to me. And I think that is a great way to think about the fruits being good or bad. Does it taste good? Because you can taste light and truth. You literally can taste it in your soul. Your soul knows what it tastes like, and it tastes good.
I know, and that's the other thing about the 12. I'll just use the 10 tribes of Israel as an example, because that's the big thing, is like, yeah, it's there. I do believe that it's gonna be a freaking miraculous restoration of the 10 tribes, and they are way ahead of it. They're gonna save us. They're going to save the saints from persecution in the most miraculous, like Hollywood style freaking way that it's going to be. And I'm like, and people are like, okay, dude. And it's like, where is the harm in that?
Yeah.
Where is that is just a beautiful, that's the most beautiful idea to me. that we have this incredible reunion with the 10 tribes and then all the tribes, like my lineage to the tribe of Ephraim, then means something, really. Then I start to realize why it actually means something to know the lineage of the house of Israel when you start to get that image in your mind. I go back to that chapter in Alma, and it's like, there isn't anything more delicious to me than that. It's like, no, that's just a lofty dream of yours. And I'm like, I really don't think so, dude. I've only come to this conclusion because of the script, because of the scriptures that I've read. That's the thing, is like, we get in the culture is like, you get the Book of Mormon or even the Bible, and you're like, we're just going to read a bunch of nonsense until we get to a story that we recognize from primary. And then we're like, oh yeah, I remember this. And this is a great chapter in the Book of Mormon. It's like, dude, do you know what it says in all of the other chapters that we don't talk about in Sunday school and in church? And I mean, they're there, they exist. Yeah. Do you know what's in them? And most members are like, not really. I mean, sort of. Jesus, maybe? And it's like, no, dude, it's really, really important stuff. It's the most important things in the scriptures according to what Jesus says. And we don't know what it is.
The most exciting thing I've learned in the last couple of years is how frequent they talk about the temple in the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
And how hidden it is.
And that's the other thing that the prophets have been pushing so hard.
You have to be able to see you have to look through eyes that can see.
Right.
And listen with ears that can hear.
Eyes to see and ears to hear. That's, yeah. Yeah.
But it's there. And gosh, I missed it my entire life. My entire life I missed it. How many times did I reread it? How many times did I go over it from the beginning? How did I never understand? And then when you can finally understand, I mean, that is a truly exciting.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that is exactly the same, like verbatim. Those are the thoughts that came into my mind reading these books. Because that's all the author does really, is he just grabs scriptures. He grabs scriptures and just says, here's what the scripture says. You tell me what you think that means. Here's what I think it means. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of freaking sense, dude. And that's just a scripture that we're just afraid of. It's not one that we...
of people who act like scriptures are so linear in they're one way.
Yeah.
They are so multifaceted.
Or they're just
blow your mind.
Or they're just too confusing. They're like, oh, we're in the Isaiah chapters. Let's just glaze over these and move on, because nobody knows what Isaiah is talking about, and that's just kind of how the stigma is. And I don't have the time to crack it. So
I know, isn't that terrible?
And that's the only prophet that Jesus himself in the Book of Mormon was like, you need to understand what this guy says.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the one that we understand the least.
I was just about to say that.
Anyway, that was a big game changer for me. And back to the peacemaker talk from President Nelson, is that's kind of what I had. I had a previous idea of what I wanted to do with this podcast. It wasn't this, but I knew I wanted to do a podcast. And then it kind of, as I was building the room, I kind of lost the desire for that first idea. And then I was like, well, what do I freaking do then? And then I just listened to that talk on a whim, and that quote, I have that quote as my description for all my platforms, that he says that when he says that we can literally change the world one person and one interaction at a time. And then goes on to say, like, how do we do this? And we model how you can interact with people in a peaceful manner. And I heard that, dude, and the Spirit just harpooned that into my heart. And I was just like, that's what I want to do. I don't even... I think that serious and taboo matters should be discussed.
I agree.
And
hot take, they should be discussed.
They should be discussed, and you can be peaceful about it.
Oh yeah,
and you
absolutely.
can disagree about it, and you can be, you know, you don't, because I come from a background, dude, where I was just like, I was like, I know it's my way or the highway. And this whole Michael Rush thing has really flipped the script on that, because he has opened my eyes to a lot of things that for the majority of my life, I was like, no, you're stupid. And now I'm like, now I see it from another perspective, and I'm like, this is so true, dude. And it's just rocked my world for everything now. Everything that comes by, it can be the craziest, goofiest idea. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm not going to knock it until I really look into it myself.
Yeah.
And maybe I never do. Maybe that's just one thing that I don't really have the desire to look into very deeply. But until I do, I'm not just going to be like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. I think we're coming up on the time where the members of the church, who is a member of the church, is going to be decided on who is readily available to change their mind.
Yeah.
Who is open to new ideas? Who is open to be wrong?
Yeah. Who is devoted to, who has developed a pattern of studying things out for themselves.
Yeah.
Not just thinking, or actually just that's a good exercise that I has come across my mind recently, is like, forget everything that you've ever been taught in the church, everything. And then just restructure your beliefs strictly based on what the scriptures say. And you will find some very, very different beliefs. Just take them at face value.
The culture of the church changes the way that people think and the way that people believe and the way that people practice.
And that's what I found on my mission when I actually got into the scriptures. There were just like, it was like thing after thing. I was like, we believe this thing, but there's no scriptural support for it. Or people say that this scripture is interpreted this way, but I don't think so. I think that there's staggering evidence that it should be interpreted this way rather than what the culture has said, and nobody's really given me a straight answer on the culture perspective. But yeah, I think that it's it's going to be culture versus doctrine. Are you in it for how it makes you feel, or are you in it for what your search of what's true and what's not true? Well, are you ready to accept like truths that you may not, why would you think that we're going to be just completely comfortable and totally understand all the truths that exist in the entire universe upon hearing them? Like we know so little about the universe, and yet we like to say things like, oh, God wouldn't do that, or God wouldn't tell this person to do that. And it's like, dude, you have no freaking idea. We are so stupid. We all we know about the universe is what exists on this tiny blue rock in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy that is just a dot compared to the rest of the universe. And you're telling me that tell me again what you would do if you were the ruler of the entire universe. You have no freaking idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Well, President Nelson has told us that it's temple time.
And it is.
And it's going to be the only members who are going to be left.
Yeah, I've told you about my experience
are going
there.
To be members who are not just endowed members, but people who are actively going to the temple, they're going to be the only ones who are left.
Yeah. And I almost even like said this, I almost wanted to say this to the members, but just, I mean, everybody that hears this, everybody, I want everybody to know that I firmly believe that the temple has the answer. I told my seminary students the same thing, but that's kind of been my motto since last year. My last year's experiences, the temple, the answer's in the temple. I don't even know what, whatever it is, dude, the temple, the answer's in the temple.
The answer, well, you will find every answer you need in the temple.
100%.
And all the ones you didn't know you didn't need, you'll find there.
So
and you'll find them in ways that you wouldn't even have thought possible. But they just come to you.
Yeah, almost as if you don't know everything.
Yeah, almost.
But anyway, so I knew that I wanted to do this podcast, and dude, that's kind of my concluding thought here is that I built it, man. I built this freaking studio, and it's horrible. It's really not a good job. And I've got sound panels falling off the wall still, and just a bunch of flaws that, are going to bug me, but I just wish that everybody listening right now could see the task the way that I saw it 6 months ago. In April, because that's the thing is I've always been like, dude, if I had a studio though, like I could cook, man. I could cook and I could make a podcast. I could do it, but I don't have the resources, man. Like I can't afford to get any equipment. I can't afford to even rent a place. And I can't do that. The way that I want to do it, I got to have my own stuff. And so I just can't do it. And then God was like, dude, if you really want to do it, freaking build it yourself. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. You've told everybody for years now that anything can be done with YouTube or ChatGPT or whatever. Build a freaking studio then. You do it. And I just wish that everybody could be me in that moment, because I was like, that task was just like, there's no way. This room was a concrete box. And I'm no construction worker. I knew the basics from the awning job I had years ago, but I was bad at that. and I was like, and now the Spirit's like, dude, build the room, dude. Do it all. Freaking frame it. Do the electrical work. Put your lights in. Get all your equipment. Go into debt. You need money? Figure out how to get it. Like it's not gonna matter if this is what you're supposed to do. I'll provide for you if you do what you're supposed to do. And I still, here I am. I wish that I could give you the happy ending here and tell you that it was all successful and that I made the living off of it. But this is episode 1. I have no idea how this is going to go, but I freaking built the studio, dude. I did it, man. And I had so much help from people. I'm a little hesitant to say that I did it because of how much help that I had from people, and they know who they are, and I'll be forever grateful for them. But it's just like, I hand drew plans for this room, and there were so many hiccups along the way. Like I was doing it.
I remember you telling me about some of them, and they were They were heavy.
The permit was the first one. I framed the whole room, and I was like, dude, that was awesome. Like, I freaking framed a room. And then they were like, and then somebody was like, oh, so you got your permits and everything? And I was like, my what? I didn't even know what they were. And they were like, oh yeah, you gotta make plans, you gotta submit. And I was like, and they nobody even knows how to do that. Like, really? I was like, who do I call? How do I? You want me to just like take out a piece of paper and draw them? And it was just kind of like, yep. You literally have to go buy grid paper. Yeah. Go buy a protractor and freaking find out how to draw your plans. And
what a wild experience.
I know. And I was like, okay. And I did it. And then, and here I am, dude. Like, we did it all. And it's just been a very, very special thing to me because, again, what I wish that people could see was just how hopeless how impossible it was when I was told to do this. How impossible was it? But that was my thing, dude, as I was like, all right, well, I have to have God with me as I do this. And I really felt him through the process. And I just feel like that is what the rising generation needs to hear. Again, I wish that I could be the perfect example and be like, hey, look, I made a living doing it. But for the time being, I am a very, very big advocator of doing what you want to do. Figure out what makes you happy first and what you have a passion for. And freaking do that, dude. Figure out a way how to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ through that first and foremost. That's ideally what you do. But if you're not a believer in Christ or whatever, I wish that you would be. But if that's not you, at the very least, send your passion 150%. If you have a good idea, money doesn't matter, dude. If you have a good idea and the great inventors and the great people of history have this mentality of like, we're afraid of the risk, and they just weren't, dude. No. They were like, I have an idea and I will work on it until it succeeds. Failure is just not an option.
That's the difference between entrepreneurs and failed businessmen.
Yeah, and wannabe entrepreneurs.
Yeah, wannabe, yeah.
And that's the thing, dude. That's the freaking Mamba mentality.
You've got to just make it work. And you keep trying until it works, and you just don't give up.
I believe that is such a saintly attribute. I think that that is what God wants us to be. And we just like to take the safe route, and like, we're going to go to college, and that's fine, dude. If that's what you want to do, and you like your college courses, you like going to college, and you like the job that you're going to get and that you do get, then freaking please do that. But I have heard too many younger people that are not happy where they are, and they're just looking for this future day when they will be, once this is all. And I'm like, dude,
you've got to go make it.
You got to do what you want to do. Deep down what you are good at and what you enjoy and what you like, dude, go do that thing and do it until it works.
Yep.
Spend whatever time and money that you have to in order to do it. If you even slack off a little bit, then that's not something that God can work with. If you're not totally devoted to the cause, like, that's what you have to be. And that's why, that's what I feel like I've done. And so, we'll see where this goes, but that's how I've been. Dropping out of high school I was like, I'm actually going to do it. This is how I feel. I feel like it would be the right thing for me to drop out. And despite what everybody is telling me, I feel like I'm depressed here. And I gotta, I'm going to do what I feel is right. And I'm going to keep, I'm not going to say that I'm like, oh, I'm going to do what feels right to me. I'm going to do it was like, I was still doing what God wanted me to do first and foremost. And then secondarily, I was like, okay, what am I going to do to eat bread? And that's what I feel like he can work with. He's not going to be like, you can't do it on your own, I guess is what I'm saying. Is like, you might think like, okay, I'm going to send it 150%, but if you don't rely on the great God that gives us everything, then I can't guarantee that it's going to work out for you. But I just feel like God wouldn't let you fail if he really does come first in your life. I feel like that you should be able to do whatever you want to do. So I think that's my story. Any concluding thoughts from you, Brandon?
I just want to thank you for having me on for the first episode.
Yeah.
I feel incredibly grateful to be a part of this. This has been the most exciting thing I've done in months. And
I'm excited to see how it turns out.
I'm excited to even just be a little part of it.
Yeah.
That made this has been awesome.
I'm glad.
Been a lot of fun.
I'm glad. Yeah, you know the future of this thing as well as I do. So we'll see what happens. And
anytime you need a guest, feel free to hit me up.
Yeah, I know that eventually I gotta get like a third person slot. Not to have 3 people in on every episode, but in case I need an extra person, I gotta have an extra. I do have an extra mic, but I gotta get a setup where I can just bring it in and then take it out as need be. So
yeah,
but yeah, I appreciate you coming out here. I mean, you're the one that drove, so
driving's the easy part. You did all the talking.
Yeah, well,
talking for lengths of time is not my strong suit. Adding in is. Well, adding in is I'm much more comfortable. So this is perfect. This was a lot of fun.
Perfect dynamic.
Yeah, this was good.
Hopefully we don't run into any major technical difficulties. Your button's still red.
Mine's still red. So
I hope it all works out.
It held strong.
In my experience, the first ones always get screwed up somehow. So we'll see. If they don't, then it was divine.
Yeah,
and we passed.
Well, this is you talk like this studio isn't anything, but I look at this place and I think, this is just incredible. This is, you really made this work.
Yeah, I say it's bad relative to the people that do it good, but relative to my capabilities, I'm like, dude, this is royalty.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Seriously. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Let's end it there.